Hello and welcome to the most special episode, I would say, of Tony the Movie Guy, the podcast. This is all about Star Wars, and this is just me and Tony talking about Star Wars. So get ready for some very passionate conversation, I would say. One thing I forgot to mention, we do go into kind of our love in Star Wars and how it kind of plays a role in our relationship. One thing we forgot to mention was when we were presented as husband and wife, as one does during a wedding ceremony, like during the reception, there, now for the first time, Mr. and Mrs., in this case, Tony Langley, we walked into the throne room song from A New Hope. If you don't know what it is, Google it or iTunes or whatever. It's the throne room at the end of The New Hope. It's a very uplifting song, and then it goes in kind of into the normal Star Wars because it's at the very end of the movie, so it goes into credits. But that's what we were presented as husband and wife at our wedding. It could have gone farther. We had R2-D2 cake toppers, which are all me. You're welcome, world, who came. They were very cute. I still have them. They're in like a little trophy case next to a bunch of my Star Wars Legos, which is weird. But, I'm not 40. I'm only in my 20s, so I can still have Legos. And another idea was to have my dad walk me down the aisle in a Darth Vader helmet, which I thought was a little too far, but would have been really cool, and I kind of wanted it. Anyway. So if you don't know already, we're huge Star Wars nerds, and you will find out even more so in this episode, and you will find out even more so how passionate I am about Star Wars, and sorry for the cursing, but I get really into it. So I'll leave you at that. Enjoy the episode.
All right, hello everyone. This is Tony the Movie Guy, and this is a special episode with my special guest, my wife, Daniela, the producer of the show.
Yay. Oh, I thought you were going to say with my special guest, and I was going to say Miss Money Danny.
Miss Money Danny? That's a good one.
Try to keep with the theme.
Yeah, well, Miss Money Annie isn't with us today, but don't worry, we got her permission for it, because this is a special bonus episode all about Star Wars. And Yenny loves the Star Wars films, but Danny and I are kind of fans on a whole new level. We're total Star Wars nerds, right?
We got matching Star Wars tattoos for our first anniversary.
Yes, we did.
So
it's a good point. What do we have? Tell the listeners what we have.
Well, I have I Love You in Star Wars font with Princess Leia's buns. Like her hair buns, not her butt buns.
Yeah, her hair buns.
And
the
Tony,
iconic hair buns.
And Tony has I Know with Han Solo's blaster.
That's right. So we have those tattoos for our anniversary, 1 year anniversary.
Mm-hmm. On our first wedding anniversary.
Yeah, so we got those. Obviously, we own about 4 or 5 sets of the original Star Wars trilogy, like different versions. We've got, Force Awakens on Blu-ray, which we've watched probably 15 times. We watched the Star Wars franchise, especially the original trilogy and Force Awakens multiple times every year. We have the prequels and we've watched them. We're not huge fans. Rogue One, same thing. Anyway, we're going to talk about all the Star Wars movies, discuss and debate them. And then, of course, we are going to do a complete spoiler-filled review of The Last Jedi, which we just saw yesterday. So we have to vent. And we'll talk about all of them, though. So this is going to be a special, Star Wars-centric episode with Danny and I, because we're just total Star Wars fanboys and fangirls, right?
Just fans, you can say fans.
Yeah, just fans. I know. You have a problem with that, don't you? Also, I'm looking at our office room right now, and Danny has I don't know, a couple $1,000 easily worth of Legos. She's got the Lego BB-8, the TIE Fighter, the X-Wing, the Millennium Falcon. We have Star Wars salt and pepper shakers. We've probably got about 25 pairs of Star Wars socks. I've got about 18 t-shirts of Star Wars. So our whole apartment is Star Wars themed. I've got like an Andy Warhol Han Solo pop art canvas in our room, which is one of my most prized possessions. So yeah, Star Wars is a huge part of our life. So this is going to be a lot of fun talking about it today, right? Mm-hmm. Babe. Okay. Danny's always so serious because she always has her producer hat on. You need to let loose. This is Star Wars. Okay, that was that was awkward silence. Okay, she's just fucking with me now.
In our kitchen we have Star Wars this and that, and on our patio we have Star Wars this, and we have a Star Wars Christmas ornament, and we have come on, let's talk about the damn movies.
I'm describing our love of Star Wars, which is very strong. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to save The Last Jedi for last. Mm-hmm. We're going to go through all of the Star Wars films in the franchise. Mm-hmm. There's, 9 of them, I think. And we're going to do it
And we did do Rogue One, too? Or are these just canon?
Yes, no, we are. So we're going to do it in sequential order. But actually...
Sequential of year release or of events?
Exactly. So we'll actually probably start with Rogue One.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know what? You brought up a good point. And I want to kind of tell the listeners this so we can you can understand our level of fandom. I think in Star Wars, there's like 3 levels of fandom. There's the people who just kind of like the movies. You know, Yenny, I think, is someone who enjoys the movies, but she's not someone who's like obsessed with them. Then you've got like the second level, which is people who like love the Star Wars movies and the franchise, which I think I would put you and I in, maybe a little bit above that. And then the third level is you've got the total quote unquote, they're literally known as like fanboys or fangirls, or as you say, just fans. But these are the people who are obsessed with not just the movies, but the mythology, the books, the comic books, the TV show, everything. And we're not really fans on that level, you know, which is what I think it kind of helps us appreciate and have more fun with these movies, because the people who are obsessed with them, it's like almost a religion to them, and I think they take it a bit too seriously.
It makes it easier to find fault.
Yeah, no disrespect to them, but it does. It makes them find fault with almost anything and make it harder to enjoy. That said, we are huge Star Wars nerds, 100%. We love these films. We love the franchise.
Absolutely.
So, okay, yeah, so let's go through them. We're going to talk about them, likes, dislikes. Again, it's very important that you put at the beginning of this episode that it's going to be full of spoilers, because we will discuss The Last Jedi at the end, okay?
I'm aware of what I have to do after we record the episode.
Okay, this is a special episode with my wife and I, so enjoy, guys. You'll see what it's like living with this woman every day. All right, so let's see. I want to go through this. Rogue One. Well, okay, sorry, I'm going to throw you under the bus. My wife fell asleep when we watched Rogue One.
The first time?
Yeah. In the theater, we saw it, I think, opening weekend or just after. You fell asleep.
Didn't we see it in that really comfy theater with the recliners, though?
Yes, in a really comfy theater. There's no excuse.
You buy the tickets.
But here's the backdrop you need to understand. Again, Danny loves Star Wars.
Yes.
So that was shocking to me that she fell asleep. Now, why did you fall asleep? What was your take on Rogue One?
I don't know. I wasn't invested as much as the characters.
Okay.
Like in the characters, sorry. I feel like they weren't. I mean, I've seen it several times since then. I don't feel like they were really introduced properly. Like the 2 guys who meet up with, what's her name? Not Daisy Ridley.
You're talking about Felicity Jones?
Yes.
She's Jyn Erso as the main character.
Well, yeah, I do actor names. But the 2 guys that meet up with her, like the guy with the blind guy and the guy with like the
All right, you're doing a terrible job. I'm going to describe the film a little bit, and then I'll let you talk about it. No, I'm just saying,
I don't feel like they were properly introduced, so I was never invested in them. And then you know what happens at the end of Rogue One,
right?
So I didn't see a point in getting invested in these characters. And it's like, I wonder what's going to happen. Oh, really? They're all going to get like completely vaporized. Like, are you serious? Come on.
Yeah. So okay, Rogue One was the first like side movie, like a side plot.
A Star Wars story.
Yeah, Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And what Rogue One is, which is kind of an ingenious idea, is it's the full story of the opening crawl of Star Wars: A New Hope, of these, rebel spies who got the plans for the Death Star and delivered them to Princess Leia.
And that's where you are at the beginning of the first ever Star Wars.
Exactly. A New Hope literally starts with Darth Vader raiding her ship and Princess Leia being captured and putting the plans and the message in R2-D2. Okay, I enjoyed Rogue One. Here is the problem with Rogue One for me. Number one, it felt like it was just a fill-in. Force Awakens had already come out, huge buzz for the main Star Wars saga. They wanted to keep it going, so the next year they released Rogue One. All I was thinking about was the next movie from the main, episode 8, basically. Number two, you're right. I couldn't get invested in the characters. And it wasn't that they did a bad job. It was because, as you said, we already knew the story. We knew that they were all going to die because you don't see them anywhere else.
Yeah, like their characters are never mentioned ever before. So, if these were these like elite, team of spies that went in and they like essentially changed the course of history, the dark side against the light side type of a thing, and they're never mentioned ever.
Right.
It's like it seemed unnecessary.
Yeah, well, the first half of the movie as well is just setting up all of these different characters, and you couldn't get invested in them. Yeah, so you had, and I made some notes here, you had Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso. She didn't do a bad job. She was fine. You just couldn't get invested in her. Diego Luna, who I know you love, was Cassian. Donnie Yen was Chirrut, the blind warrior who believes in the Force and the ways of the Jedi.
He was cool. I really liked his character.
Him. Yeah, and then Alan Tudyk as K2SO, I loved. He was one of the highlights of the film. And then, of course, the Darth Vader scene is, at the end of the movie, is probably the single best Darth Vader scene I have ever seen, where he just goes batshit crazy and opens a can of whoop-ass in the ship against the rebel fighters. And then that kind of segues to A New Hope. That's literally the opening scene where you see Darth Vader. But I mean, it's such a brutal, visceral scene of him just showing his pure power and rage as he just decimates like 25 of those rebel fighters. I love that scene alone elevates Rogue One to a good movie. For me, I found that scene for Darth Vader, the hallway sequence. You're looking confused.
I had a separate thought. Sorry.
Okay, but that scene was incredible. You've got to admit, right?
It was very cool.
That gives me goosebumps every time I see it. But I will agree with you that it just dragged on, and the first hour of that film, I just can't get invested in. The third act, I thought, was actually fantastic. It has an epic battle, which is fantastic. The Darth Vader scene and stuff, I really enjoyed that. And then another thing that really bugged me, which I thought was just, they went too far on, was the CGI on Princess Leia, right? The last scene where, this gives us hope. That's what she says when they deliver the plans to her finally for the Death Star. It didn't work for me.
No.
I thought that was just cheesy.
None of the CGI worked for me.
Yeah, and then it was a real bold choice to have Grand Moff Tarkin in the film a lot, which is Peter Cushing, who is in A New Hope, and he died in real life, and they used CGI, and it was actually quite good CGI. I was just surprised how much they used it. It was a bit too much.
I feel like they can do so much with practical effects that they could have, if they wanted to have him in the movie that much, they could have put someone in makeup. I mean, you can make anybody look like anybody with
and you
can
put someone
makeup.
In shadow and silhouette. You can do different things.
Like use it, like don't put him center screen, blow up on his face and it's just CGI. Same thing with the Princess Leia thing. Like, you could have shot that just from the back of her head.
Exactly.
And it would have been,
it would have had more impact.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. Instead of like looking at it, had her face on, I think her face comes out of the shadow or something and you see her.
You see a full center.
And then you're like.
And it looks CGI. That's the problem.
And then your attention's like, ooh.
Yeah.
They went that way. All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, Rogue One to me is an enjoyable movie. It's pretty slow. It's hard to get invested. The third act is phenomenal, and it has the single best Darth Vader sequence you will ever see.
Yeah.
Those are the highlights of it.
It has fun parts,
yes.
But not enough. Like, they aren't consistent enough. Like, it's K2SO is funny at these times, and that's that one good scene. But as a whole, I'm like, I can pass. I still love it. I'll still watch it. I mean, I own it.
Right,
seen
we've
it
seen
more
it a
than
few
one time.
times. Yeah, exactly. And with any, that's the thing. No matter how critical we're going to get here, we'll watch even the films that we can't stand in the prequels, which we'll get to. Even those we'll watch over and over again. That's the thing about being a Star Wars nerd. You know what I mean?
I just had that thought though. Like we started with Rogue One, weren't we going to start from the beginning, which would be Episode 1?
Well, no, Rogue One goes first, and then
No, it doesn't.
oh,
You have to start with Baby Anakin.
oh, so did I just
Have you ever
screw
seen
it
a
up?
pod race? Yeah.
Okay, well, okay, so thank you, Daniela, the producer again. So I did screw it up. So it should have gone the prequels, Rogue One, and then Star Wars. Okay, well, you know what? Screw it. We're already like 10 minutes into this, so let's keep going. We discussed Rogue One, but you're right. So what we're going to do is I do want to do it in sequence. So we'll talk about the prequels next, and then we'll just mention Rogue One, and then we'll go from there. But I think we finished talking about Rogue One.
I was done talking about it.
Yeah, overall, look, I enjoy that film, but yeah, it's not wonderful. There's a lot of love for Rogue One, a lot of love. It was a huge success, so good for them. Okay, good. So let's talk about the prequels, and we'll start with Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So, did you see that in the theater or not? Were you too
I never
young?
saw any Star Wars movie in a theater. I didn't start watching Star Wars. I'm 25 now. I probably saw it for the first time when I was like 16 or 17.
Okay. So I never had the luxury of getting to see the original. I mean, I'm old, but I'm not that old. So I didn't see the original trilogy, episode 4, 5, and 6 in the theaters. I watched them on home video on VHS. The first one I actually saw in the theater was A Phantom Menace. And it came out in like 1999, 2000. I remember how palpable the excitement was because it had been so long since a Star Wars movie had come out. And George Lucas wrote and I think directed all of them. It was like his baby. And the excitement, the ad campaign for Phantom Menace, all I remember is this picture of the kid, Jake Lloyd, who played Anakin. And then his silhouette was Darth Vader. And it gave me goosebumps. It looked so exciting. And I dragged my whole family out to see Phantom Menace. And I enjoyed it. I did. But then it was kind of completely forgettable. And the thing about Phantom Menace is, look, I know the prequels, they get bashed on. They do. They get shat on a lot. Phantom Menace, to me, is just a fun film. It's not a great Star Wars film. Maybe it didn't live up to the hype, but it's a fun film. I can still enjoy it. I don't love it. What's your take on Phantom Menace?
I'll be totally honest with you. The prequels kind of all melt together for me. Like they're just, those three movies, the prequels, they're all one memory.
You know what's funny to me? You're a younger generation. Most of the younger generation, in their 20s, early 30s, actually like the prequels. It's funny that you don't.
I don't mind them.
Okay.
I don't mind them at all, but I have the memory of a goldfish, and so it's like I know what happens in them, but I haven't seen them enough to like really distinguish one from another.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're not going to break down the whole plot of all these movies, but Phantom Menace is Jake Lloyd he's the actor. That poor kid just basically didn't do anything else afterwards.
Have you ever seen a pod race?
So he's young Anakin Skywalker, and Liam Neeson plays Qui-Gon Jinn, and his apprentice is Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor. And they discover this kid and his metachlorian count or something is off the charts. So he's got like Jedi sperm cells or something. It's not really explained. It's kind of weird, but he's basically powerful. And it's them kind of taking him on. And, Natalie Portman is Queen Padme. And yeah, I actually don't remember the rest of that story, but here's what I do remember. And then, the prequels are really, they get into politics. So you had Palpatine, which was Ian McDiarmid, who's this political guy. But anyway, in the first film, Phantom Menace, number one, George Lucas just went wee on CGI, and I kind of understand it.
It was like, a look what we can do now.
Yeah, look at what I can do. And
but it was way too much.
He really did it. It was ridiculous. So I mean, Phantom Menace, notoriously has like Jar Jar Binks, which it's funny. A lot of kids and a lot of younger people don't mind him. I couldn't stand him. Jar Jar Binks is like really disgraced Star Wars.
Misa don't mind Jar Jar Binks.
Okay, exactly. See, and then the flying weird creature thing that basically keeps Jake Lloyd as his slave.
Are you thinking of A Never-Ending Story?
No. I think I might have even written it down here.
I don't remember what it's called.
Let's see.
Falcor.
Yeah, no, Falcor is awesome. No, there's like this flying, like weird character in Phantom Menace. I don't remember, but anyway, and he's the one who kind of has Jake Lloyd's character, Anakin Skywalker, under his wing. But anyway, moving on. Phantom Menace, yeah, it had kind of glorious CGI. Again, in Phantom Menace, it didn't bother me so much. It's really in the second one where the CGI really bothered me. Mm-hmm. Ewan McGregor's decent as Obi-Wan. Liam Neeson was good as Qui-Gon Jinn. And Ray Park plays Darth Maul. Darth Maul as a villain was badass. I liked him. I really did. He had the double lightsaber thing. It was so cool. And there are some pretty cool battle sequences. It's a pity that his character got wasted, and so I remember him. I liked him a lot. I liked the whole battle with Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Spoiler, he kills Qui-Gon Jinn, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi, straight up, cuts him in half. I remember that. I thought that was cool. And then I remember the pod race. The pod race is pretty cool. That was quite exciting. Did you like the pod race?
Yeah. So I don't mind young Anakin. I think he's kind of cute, but I don't like Darth Maul as a villain. All I look at is you look like a Triceratops and a clown had a baby. And
that sounds scary.
No, it doesn't. It's like you're face paint. Really? Come on.
I liked him. He's very popular, especially in canon, with all the real hardcore fans. But
I think he looks stupid.
Yeah, okay, fine. So Phantom Menace to me is just kind of decent and enjoyable. It was very kind of childish. Obviously, it was a huge sensation when it came out. It made $1 billion. And it got decent reviews when it came out. Mm-hmm. And then he followed up, I think, a couple years later with Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Really quick before you go into Attack of the Clones.
Okay.
Did you ever go find that video of someone dubbing in young Anakin's voice over shots of Darth Vader? So it's
I've seen it.
So it's Darth Vader talking in episode 4 or whatever, talking to somebody, but it's young Anakin's voice. Have you ever seen a pod race?
You have to describe it for the listeners.
It's so funny. I can't even think. It's a bunch of scenes with young Anakin's voice and
Darth Vader,
and it's the actual scene from episode 4 or whatever, and the characters are all talking their normal dialogue, and just over where Darth Vader's voice would be, it's just splices of young Anakin. It's so funny. I don't know what it's called.
Do you know the human head weighs 8 pounds?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Jerry Maguire.
Yeah. It's of the same elk though. It's really funny.
We're gonna kind of digress here. There's so many hilarious things about Star Wars. All the dubbing, bad lip syncing things, the seagulls.
Oh God, that seagull song.
The seagull song. There's so many, just YouTube, bad lip reading and different things on Star Wars
you can just the seagull song, or then young Anakin, Darth Vader, I think is how you can find the other one, but
the bad dad jokes about Star Wars. Those are hilarious. So you can Google all kinds of fun stuff. But anyway,
can we be done with all the prequels now? Let's get to the good stuff.
Yeah, well, look, let's go through them. So we finished Phantom Menace.
You're teasing me. I need to get to Last Jedi right now.
It's okay, we will. So the next one would be Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. To me, that's the worst Star Wars film made, in my opinion. That's the one I really don't like. Phantom Menace, I can still enjoy overall. Attack of the Clones to me is almost eye rolling, oh my God, you know what I mean? This is where, number one, I think George Lucas just went nuts with the CGI. It's so ludicrous. And even though I've seen this one probably 3 or 4 times, I literally don't remember much of it. I think this is where General Grievous comes in, the big robot guy with 6 arms. It's just so cheesy. I don't. And then this is Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker, who, look, he's not a bad actor in real life. He's done some other films I like. Jumper, everyone's defense against him is he's amazing in Shattered Glass. And he is. There is actually a few other movies other than Shattered Glass that Hayden Christensen has done that he likes, that he's good in, sorry. But he's just so wooden as Anakin Skywalker. He really is. He's just terrible.
Was Star Wars his first big movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
So that kind of explains it.
Yeah, and also his chemistry with Natalie Portman was just terrible.
It could have been anything. It could have been he's trying to act this way and then being directed to act another way. Like, there's a lot of reasons why a good actor can give a bad performance.
Well, he's not a great actor. That's the thing. Because, again, Shattered
He's
Glass...
probably better than me.
Yeah, sure, exactly. That's the thing. That's why I think people are too harsh on him. He can act. He's not bad, He's just not great. But in this role, he was very wooden. Again, in Revenge of the Sith, I actually don't think he's terrible. But especially in Attack of the Clones and the chemistry with Natalie Portman's character, Padme... It's god awful. There are some of the most cheesiest lines that literally made my skin crawl. It was terrible. And as I said, the CGI was terrible. General Grievous was such an awful character, in my opinion. The whole like Clone Wars thing and stuff, I just didn't think it should have been like really exciting, and I didn't think it was. You did have Count Dooku, which was Christopher Lee, which was kind of cool. And so the one thing I remember about Attack of the Clones that I did enjoy is there's this battle with Count Dooku, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker, and then Yoda comes in and opens a can of whoop ass on Count Dooku, and that scene was cool. But even then, the CGI kind of doesn't hold up very well. But yeah, I don't know. Attack of the Clones is so forgettable to me, But this is the one where also Anakin starts to kind of turn to the dark side. He goes back to his home planet. He finds his mother is being captured and tortured by the Sand People. Cut a long story short, she dies, and he goes crazy and he like murders and kills the entire village of Sand People. So he's getting filled with hate. And the Jedi Council don't want to train him. They think he's too powerful. Anyway, you start to see the turn of him. But Attack of the Clones, to me, I know you want me to just move on from that, right?
Last Jedi.
So you're not a fan of... Okay, we're still on the prequels. So you're not a fan of Attack of the Clones out of all?
They all meld together for me.
Okay, you said that before.
Yeah, like I really can't tell one from the other. They're just like, here are the prequels. It's one 9-hour long story, and okay. I couldn't tell you which is in which movie.
So I won't defend the prequels as a whole, but Revenge of the Sith is a film that's the last of the prequels, episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I enjoy that film. I don't think it deserves to be bunched in and piled in with the other prequels.
Yeah, but I really don't mind any of them that much.
Okay, well, Revenge of the Sith, I actually like that film. It's definitely the best of the prequels, and I like that film better than Rogue One. Again, Anakin Skywalker is you have to kind of get past his acting because he's just not good in his chemistry.
Have a couple of cocktails and then watch it and you'll be like, this is great.
Yeah, but Revenge of the Sith, I think it's Ewan McGregor is fantastic as Obi-Wan, especially in Revenge of the Sith. He's really come into his own. That's why I'd love to see a Ben Kenobi film.
Didn't they confirm that they're doing that?
Obi-Wan Kenobi, I'm not sure, but I would love to, and I'd love to see it with Ewan McGregor because actually it's the perfect time. I don't feel like they can do it without him. I think it's the perfect timing for him to be cast.
Because he was like in his early 30s when they did the Star Wars ones?
Yeah, something like that. But he looks great.
Yeah.
He looks great for the part.
One doesn't.
Anyway, so Revenge of the Sith I really enjoy. It's got some glorious and epic space battles. I remember that very clearly. And the especially the second half of Revenge of the Sith I think is fantastic, where so Ian McDiarmid is really good as Palpatine, and then you find out he's actually Darth Sidious. He's the Emperor, and then he basically turns Anakin and he names him Darth Vader, and it's got that incredible battle sequence with Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I thought was incredible. Again, it's a bit cheesy where he's like, I have the higher ground, Anakin. I've won, And then Anakin jumps and then Obi-Wan Kenobi dices him and chops him into 3 pieces, and then he gets burnt in the volcano, or the lava, sorry. Anyway, then Palpatine comes and, basically takes Anakin away, and the scene where he transforms into Darth Vader with the mask going on, and then the Danny's looking at me and rolling her eyes.
Roll them.
That scene gives me chills every time. I love it. And then there's the whole scene where basically they turn against all the Jedi and wipe the Jedi out. And then you think they're almost about to take out Yoda, and he's with all the Wookiees. I thought that whole sequence was great. Yoda's awesome. And it really sets up the original trilogy because it shows how Anakin became Darth, why Obi-Wan Kenobi became a hermit, why Yoda went into exile, you know, the rise of or what is it? It's not the First Order, that's
The Empire.
The Empire, the rise of the Empire, you know, how the Emperor came to be. And then, of course, again, it doesn't explain it very well. Padme just kind of dies because she, quote unquote, lost the will to live or something. She dies during childbirth, and they have twins, her and Anakin, which is a boy and a girl, Luke and Leia. And it shows how Luke goes off, you know, in Tatooine, to a farm herder family. And then Leia is with like royalty as a baby. They adopt her. So it kind of sets up how the original trilogy came about really well. Anyway, I know you just want me to stop talking. I'm just trying to plug Revenge of the Sith because I actually think that film is really quite good in its own, especially the second half. Do you want to say something?
No, I don't want to say anything about the prequels anymore.
You're done.
I don't hate them. I think they're watchable. I do watch them, but I haven't seen them nearly as many times as I had the original.
I've seen them 3 or 4 times, but
I think
you're right.
I've maybe seen them twice.
Yeah, but I've seen Revenge of the Sith probably about 5 or 6 times. But okay, good. Oh, and then also Samuel L. Jackson, who I love. His character is Mace Windu. I never was a big fan of. But again, okay, good. So we're done with the prequels.
Last Jedi.
All right.
Last Jedi.
No, we're done with the prequels. So now in sequential order, it would then be Rogue One.
Okay, that happened. We talked about it.
We talked about Rogue One. Okay, so you've got episode 1, 2, 3, which is Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, Rogue One, which basically is a full-length movie just telling the story about how Leia got the plans for the Death Star. And then we've got episode 4, Star Wars, A New Hope. Mm-hmm. Now, this film came out in 1977, which was the year I was born. That's when it came out. And it was written and directed by George Lucas. What's hilarious about this, which you probably know, is so many people, like companies, producers, thought this was just like that wacky, zany Star Wars film. He had a really hard time getting it made. You know that, right?
Yeah.
You know, he cast Han Solo, Harrison Ford. He was a carpenter on set, you know, and he got the role. And the rest were basically unknown. I think Sir Alec Guinness, who plays Obi-Wan Kenobi, was the only really kind of well-known established character. Star Wars, when it got released, it became an instant sensation. It made like $1 billion nearly back then for inflation. Who knows what that is? And it became a worldwide sensation, not just a film. I mean, you know, there were lines going round the blocks and people going back to see it multiple times, but the whole franchise, you know, the comics, you know, the toys, everything.
They did a novelization of the movie afterwards.
It was huge. I mean, again, I'm an old bloke. I'm not old, but I'm 40. And I remember having the, you know, in England, we call it an AT-AT walker, the AT-AT. Like, I guess an AT-AT. But anyway, I remember having that. I remember having one of the first Millennium Falcon models. I always punch myself because I had a huge Star Wars collection of toys when I was a kid.
And didn't keep any of them?
If I had kept that, man, it would have been worth so much.
It's okay. I'll hold on to my Legos.
So much. Yeah, exactly. We got to do that.
I'll pay for our kids' college tuition.
Okay, so Star Wars: A New Hope. I mean, we love, right? Mm-hmm. We love that movie. I want to let you say something. Talk about Star Wars: A New Hope a bit. And then I'll kind of give my opinion on it.
I don't know. Like, it was the first movie that I ever...
When did you watch it?
Probably when I was like 16 or 17, maybe.
So funny. You didn't even watch it as a kid?
No. I mean, like, I think we owned them, but we weren't... I don't know. Like, my parents weren't like big Star Wars people. My mom was a Trekkie.
Oh, that's right. Your mom and sister are huge Star Trek fans.
Yeah, so I would
By the way, I like both.
I'd watch, like, you know, Star Wars or Star Trek... God, what was that series called? I forget.
Generations? The one with Patrick Stewart?
I don't remember.
Deep Space Nine? All right, well, we're on Star Wars right now.
Anyway, but I'd watch those with her. She wasn't a big Star Wars fan, and she's still not really, like, she'll watch the movies, but she's not like, oh, my kids have to watch Star Wars because it's, like, you know, the greatest movie ever. So I kind of just put it on myself when I got older.
So no one really introduced it to you?
No.
Oh, wow.
I just had the movies, and I was like, huh. I'm bored. I have a DVD player in my room. Here we go.
Yeah, so I grew up with I guess my parents, my dad especially, must have really liked it because I remember we had the VHSs. So I would watch that original trilogy over and over. And again, as I said, the first one I actually saw in the theater was Phantom Menace in the theater, which as a movie and experience in the cinema was pretty good. But I mean, Star Wars New Hope, I mean, it's an instant classic. Now it's, a classic film, of course. It just introduced, Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Chewbacca, R2-D2, C-3PO,
R2-D2
Darth
is
Vader.
like my favorite thing in the entire world.
Yeah, you love R2-D2.
Love R2-D2.
Yeah, she does.
Tony's like, do you need more R2-D2 stuff? And I'm like, yes.
Yes.
I have a kitchen timer. I have measuring cups. Like, I have R2-D2.
All R2-D2, yeah. But I think BB-8 gave R2-D2 a run for his money.
No, I look better in blue, so I like R2-D2.
Really? Okay, well, you have a lot of BB-8 stuff, too.
Oh, I have a BB-8 Lego. I don't have any. No, that's
And
it.
a t-shirt.
And a t-shirt. Yeah, but, half of my t-shirts are Star Wars t-shirts.
Yeah. Well, anyway, R2-D2 is OG. He's original.
Too legit to quit.
Yeah. So look, I love. So A New Hope is the Skywalker kind of trilogy, the story of Luke Skywalker grown up, Princess Leia, who's now like the princess.
Alderaan.
Of Alderaan, and she's like, with the rebellion against the Empire, and then you've got the Emperor and Darth Vader, who's the big bad, and then obviously the iconic line, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope," which Princess Leia puts inside R2-D2, and then Luke Skywalker discovers that message. She says, "Find Obi-Wan Kenobi," so Luke Skywalker does, and then it goes off on an epic adventure where he gets trained as a Jedi, and
you left out 3PO, by the way.
He saves. No, I said C-3PO and R2-D2. They're kind of a combo deal, although everyone loves R2-D2. But anyway, they go and save Princess Leia, and it goes from there. And then you've got the Death Star and the big controversial. That's the thing. See, even Star Wars, you could pick it apart a bit, but it's such a wonderfully entertaining movie. Well, look, the fact that there's one little hole in the Death Star that you can shoot a ray and then it will destroy the entire Death Star. It's kind of cheesy.
But you wouldn't know unless you stole the plans. Like, if they didn't steal the plans,
they wouldn't know that there's a defect.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
And Rogue One, don't they explain why there's a defect there?
Yeah, because the father did it intentionally.
Yeah.
He built an anomaly intentionally.
He was essentially kidnapped. They killed his
he
wife
wasn't
and
evil.
forced
Exactly. He wasn't evil.
to build this thing for them.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess that somewhat makes sense. But anyway, may the force be with you. These are not the droids you're looking for. So many iconic lines. One thing I remember about Star Wars: A New Hope, like when I watched it as a young child, like on home video again, it's quite, especially A New Hope, it's quite violent. When Luke comes back to his uncle and aunts, they're like charred to pieces, like skeletal, burnt, crisp remains. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
People weren't as sensitive back then.
Yeah, and then when they're in the cantina, I think it's just Mos Eisley, and they're in the cantina, and the guy is like, I don't like you to Luke Skywalker, and he's like, my friend doesn't like you, I don't like you either. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi intervenes, and he chops the guy's arm off. I remember as a kid that shit scarred me a bit. But anyway, I guess it didn't bother you at all, huh?
No, it didn't. People are too sensitive nowadays.
Yeah. Oh, and then of course, Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi was fantastic.
It's like perfection.
Yeah, the Millennium Falcon. That alone, the spaceship has just become so iconic. I don't know. And then James Earl Jones's booming voice as Darth Vader. Luke, I am your father.
Do you know how conflicting that is for me?
What?
I said, do you know how conflicting that is for me?
How conflicting
is it,
Daniela?
Stop it. Because
She's not impressed. What?
Because he's in Lion King and he's like, oh my God, we love him.
He's Mufasa, right?
Yeah, and then he's Darth Vader and you're like, I'm supposed to hate you, but I love you.
Oh no, Darth Vader, and I don't think anyone will disagree. He's one of the most beloved, anti-heroes, villains of all time.
He's not an anti-hero. He's a straight-up villain.
Well, he is until the end, which we'll get to. But anyway, okay, good. So I think we said enough about A New Hope.
Last Jedi.
Okay, honey, we're not there yet. This is episode 4. And by the way, I mean, the opening crawl, the music score from John Williams, how iconic is that? And that opening crawl, what is it, a long time ago in a galaxy far away? Even that's
far away,
yeah, it's so interesting. You know, a long time ago, it's very like, whoa, out there, you know, gets you thinking. And then the whole opening crawl itself is so iconic, you know, which again, that's only in the main sequel films, like, you know, episode 1 through 7 and then now 8, which just came out. Those are the only ones that have the actual opening crawl.
Yeah.
The side ones don't, which basically just Rogue One. Anyway, okay, good. So Star Wars A New Hope we're done with. So then episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. To me, that's the best Star Wars film ever made. It's funny, as a kid, the one I saw the most, the one I enjoyed the most was Return of the Jedi, actually. I loved that one. But the more I've seen Empire Strikes Back, to me, that one's like almost just a pitch perfect film. I can't find any fault in it. I absolutely love The Empire Strikes Back. It's quite dark, but it's so good. What's your take on it?
I love it. I think they're all like so pitch perfect. It doesn't even.
Okay, but we're talking about Empire Strikes Back right now.
I know. It's perfect.
The whole movie.
Yeah, I have no problems with it.
See,
I have no problems with
I'm trying
any
to
of the
engage in like an intelligent back and forth conversation.
No, you can't dissect Star Wars. Star Wars is perfect. And
You don't have to dissect it. What do you love about it?
Oh, I
don't want to do all the talking.
Yeah, it's you're
my
Tony the
guest.
movie guy.
I know, but I like to go back and forth.
I just like.
What's your favorite thing about Empire Strikes Back? It's supposed to be fun.
I know, but it's hard to pick.
Okay, so I'll just keep going. I mean, Empire Strikes Back is considered not only the best Star Wars film by most critics, it's actually considered one of the greatest films ever made. Like,
I don't know if it's my favorite.
Yeah, oh, it's mine for sure. Don't worry, at the end, I'll have us kind of rank it, because that would be interesting to do. But Empire Strikes Back, I really think it's pitch perfect. Number one, I mean, the opening is right on the ice planet Hoth. You've got that, you know, that big scary monster thing where, again, it like cuts it open. Han Solo, when he's saving Luke Skywalker, he cuts it open, and it looks like basically slugs and maggots come out. I always remember that as a kid scaring me.
It's an animal.
I know, and I guess it says entrails because he puts
it's like intestines
Luke
and stuff.
Skywalker in there to like keep him warm. I don't know, I remember that scene as a kid haunted me because it looked so gross. But that whole opening scene and the battle on Hoth with the ATs or whatever you call them, attack walkers is what we called it in England. I thought was incredible. That was really cool. I don't know. There's so much in Empire Strikes Back I love, and then
I do love those AT-AT walkers.
Yeah, that's incredible, and that whole sequence was incredible. And then, you know, Luke Skywalker basically goes to the Dagobah system to get trained by Yoda, because the Force ghost of Obi-Wan Kenobi tells him he needs to go seek out Yoda and get trained as a Jedi.
The Dagobah system.
So then he goes to the Dagobah system and he meets Yoda, the little green puppet, who at first is like, he's like stealing his food.
There we go. That's probably my favorite part of that movie, is Yoda being such a smartass.
Yeah, and then when he realizes he actually is Yoda, Yoda's like, I cannot train him. And he's like, you know, do or do not. There is no try. I can't do Yoda at all.
Not at all. No.
Can you?
No.
Are you not even going to attempt it?
No.
Okay, well, I don't know Yoda. But I mean, do or do not. There is no try is one of my favorite quotes of all time. It's literally posted in my office on the wall. And I read it like every single day. I mean, Yoda is badass, and he shows it doesn't matter how small you are. I mean, you can be all powerful. I think he's like 800 years old or something. So yeah, I mean, in Empire Strikes Back, Luke is off with Yoda and the Dagobah system training as a Jedi. And then Empire Strikes Back is the introduction of Lando Calrissian, Billy D. Williams, who is a great kind of character, you know, not a main character, but a great addition, I think. I loved him. I thought it was awesome. And, you know, he's a friend of Han, and he meets him in Cloud City or something.
Cloud City is where he is currently.
Right, that's where Lando is. But then you find out that basically Lando double crosses Han Solo because Darth Vader is already there, and he made a deal with him before he arrived. So they capture Princess Leia, Chewie, and Han
Don't really
Solo.
think he had much of a choice, though.
Right, he didn't, but still, he did
Yeah.
double cross him. Boba Fett is also in Empire Strikes Back. Boba Fett is such an interesting character because he's one of the most popular characters that in the main films really doesn't do much at all. He's just so cool to look at. Because I remember as a kid, I loved Boba Fett, but I didn't even really know why. Number one, he was a bad guy. Number two, he's in Empire Strikes Back a bit, and then he's in Return of the Jedi, and then he gets killed. I forgot to mention this in the prequels. I thought they ruined that because they have Jango Fett, which is like the father or something. Boba Fett is basically like a clone of Jango Fett. And I thought he was very forgettable, the character, the way he was portrayed. So Boba Fett, I know, is one of the most popular ones people want a standalone film on. And it would be interesting to see how they do it. Well, look, here's the
I
thing.
don't think he can do a whole movie out of that.
Well, that's the thing.
It's like, I'm a bounty hunter.
But you could create a whole story because the idea of that character, I think, is what everyone loves. The way he looks and his kind of, just how kind of cool he is. But we don't really know anything about him. It's just very interesting, not to go on a tangent.
Well, how about, do you think that he'll make an appearance in the Han Solo movie?
Maybe.
Because they were familiar with each other before Episode 5.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he was familiar, but that's a good point.
Seemed like it was.
Yeah, because he went, I think he was looking for and trying to bring him to Jabba the Hutt, right? Capture him for Jabba
He's
the
a bounty
Hutt.
hunter.
Yeah, so, okay, good. So you're right. So maybe they will. I don't know. I mean, again, I just find his character so interesting because he doesn't do a lot, but he's just so cool. The idea of him was cool.
Probably because he has a jetpack. That's why you like him.
Yeah, so I mean, now that I think about different scenes, is that Empire Strikes Back, part of why I love it so much, there are so many memorable scenes.
That should be my next Halloween costume.
Which one?
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett?
Yeah.
I wish you would pick Princess Leia. Slave Princess Leia?
That wouldn't be very
I
appropriate.
should be so lucky. And so, I mean, her last outfit for Halloween was Kylo Ren.
I'm
like,
sorry, he's
be
cool.
Rey. And she's like, no, I love Kylo Ren. Anyway. Okay, so Empire Strikes Back, the more I think about it, the reason why I think it's so beloved is it has so many incredible scenes. So obviously one of the most iconic scenes in Empire Strikes Back is when Han Solo gets frozen in carbonite. And before that, he says, I love you. I know. Princess Leia says, I love you. And he says, I know, which was completely ad-libbed by Harrison Ford. In the script, it was supposed to be, I love you too. And he was like, you know what? I don't think Han Solo would say that. And he's so right. I mean, it became so iconic. So Empire Strikes Back gets really dark because basically Luke Skywalker leaves the Dagobah system before fully completing his training because he has some kind of premonition that Han Solo and Leia are in trouble. And he goes to, is the Death Star being rebuilt again or something? Is that where he goes? I can't remember where he goes. I think the Death Star is being reconstructed after they destroyed it in the first film. But anyway, he goes to confront Darth Vader or something, or something like that. I can't remember how he gets there, but he has the big showdown with Darth Vader, and then Darth Vader cuts off his hand, and that's the big reveal, which, if you think about it, is so mind-blowing how incredible that twist was at the time. Now people take it for granted. When he's like, did Obi-Wan Kenobi tell you about your father? It's like, yes, he told me you killed my father. He says, no, I am your father. No, it can't be true. I love that scene. Oh my God. And he's like, join me, Luke. Together we shall rule the galaxy. And then Luke's like, I'll never join the dark side. And then he basically lets go. And they're on Cloud City. That's where they are. They're on Cloud City. It was a trap. Darth Vader basically lured in Luke Skywalker because he went to Cloud City to save Han and Princess Leia. There you go. But anyway, that whole scene is so iconic, so incredible. And Empire Strikes Back, I mean, it ends kind of very dark, You've got Lando and Princess Leia on the Millennium Falcon. They pick up Luke Skywalker. They save him. He now is kind of connected through the Force to Darth Vader because he knows he's his father. And Han Solo is frozen in carbonite. So it really is called The Empire Strikes Back for a reason. It's a much darker one. But the storytelling, the plot, that big, huge reveal is incredible. And that film to me is, again, like I try and look at any kind of flaw or fault and I can't really find one. Can you?
No. I think This movie probably flows the best out of all of them.
Right. It's just incredible. So Empire Strikes Back, it's a masterpiece. I absolutely love that film. There's so many incredible things about it. And it's also, if you think about it, kind of one of the best sequels ever made, because it was the sequel to Star Wars: A New Hope, and it excelled it. It was better, Anyway, I think that film is so incredible. All right, we'll move on. I know this was one you, for some reason, really have been wanting to talk about, which is Episode 6, Star Wars: The Return of the Jedi. Now, as I said, when I was a kid, this was actually my favorite one, because it's the one I remember watching over and over again.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I loved the Ewoks. I loved Wicket. I really loved Luke Skywalker. I really did. Because he's kind of whiny in A New Hope, and then he's coming into his own in Empire Strikes Back.
He was a kid in A New Hope.
I know. But what's that whiny thing he does in the beginning of A New Hope that a lot of people make fun of?
Oh,
where he's talking to his uncle or aunt about, but Auntie blah, I had to go blah, blah, blah. I can't remember.
Yeah, he has... some race or something.
Yeah, it's just really funny. A lot of people make fun of that. But you're right. He really comes into his own. And by Return of the Jedi, the first 45 minutes of Return of the Jedi is basically him saving Han Solo from Jabba the Hutt back on Tatooine, right? Now Luke is full-on Jedi. He's dressed in dark black and he's got a robot hand with the glove, and he's badass, and then you've got Princess Leia in that iconic, totally sexist dress, it's really sexy.
A metal bikini.
Yeah, metal bikini, basically. Jabba the Hutt's incredible. And then you've got the whole Sarlacc pit sequence where they're all going to be fed to the Sarlacc pit. And then what's that scene that gets parodied in Family Guy?
Oh, when they have a plan and they're all looking at each other, look at Billy D. Williams, he nods, and then look at Leia, nods, and then look at R2D2, and he kind of tips back and forth to signal that he's nodding.
Yeah, so they're about to be thrown into the Sarlacc pit by Jabba the Hutt, but Luke Skywalker. Yeah, no, they all are. They're all going to be thrown into the Sarlacc pit because they've all been caught. Because Han Solo was frozen in carbonite, and then Princess Leia dresses up as a bounty hunter, goes in to try and save him, and then she unfreezes him, but then they capture her, and then R2D2 and C-3PO are already there because Luke Skywalker had sent them ahead as quote-unquote a gift. And then Luke Skywalker goes in there, and then he gets thrown in that pit and he kills that big monster thing. But then they all get captured, and then they get flown out to the Sarlacc pit to be thrown over. And then Luke Skywalker has a plan, and that's where they all nod and look at each other. And in Return of the Jedi, it's 4 or 5 shots of each one of them nodding and looking at each other like they're about to do something. But Family Guy do, Blue Harvest. They do a whole spoof, which is almost an exact, frame by frame remake as a spoof parody with all the Family Guy characters, and they're all looking at each other.
It goes on for about 2 minutes.
Exactly. About 25 to 30 different shots. It just goes on of them staring at each other. Anyway, it was hilarious. But back to Return of the Jedi. I thought that whole opening, the whole scene with, Jabba the Hutt and the Sarlacc pit, that alone was quite iconic. Yeah, Princess Leia's costumes, the little freaky monster next to Jabba the Hutt, and the really ugly one with a weird long, I can't remember what you called it. There were so many fascinating.
You mean the blue guy with the weird kind of ears
thingies
that come and hang down
looks
over his
a
shoulder?
Big ulcer, I thought it was pink, but anyway,
you're right.
It had all kinds.
There are blue ones though.
Yeah, it had all kinds of fascinating characters. And anyway, I loved that whole sequence. One thing that does bug me, see, again, when I go to Empire Strikes Back, it's almost flawless. I can't even see something. One thing that did bug me about Return of the Jedi was Boba Fett kind of just, his jetpack gets malfunctions and then he falls into the Sarlacc pit and you think he's dead, so he has about 2 minutes of screen time. So that bugged me a bit because I did like him, But anyway, Return of the Jedi is fantastic. Again, it's got a bit of a rehash of A New Hope where they're building another Death Star, so they have to destroy it again.
It's completely different than the Death Star.
But they're just rebuilding a Death Star.
No, it's a Death Star too.
Yeah, but it's still another. Is it bigger?
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's just another Death Star.
And it's not done yet, so they had an easier time destroying it. So
yeah. Anyway, so I think all the rebels, they go to Endor, which is where the Ewoks are, and Princess Leia meets little Wicket, which is Warwick Davis plays Wicket. I like the Ewoks. I did find it a bit weird that the Ewoks could kind of straight up, go against the Empire soldiers and stormtroopers and stuff, and they're little like couple feet high, teddy bears basically.
Oh, they're so cute.
Yeah, but anyway, so there's a big battle on Endor with Han Solo and Princess Leia, and then Luke Skywalker goes to the Death Star because he goes back to the Dagobah system. Yoda dies, but basically he thinks that he can save his father. He thinks there's still good in Darth Vader and his father, so he turns himself in because he basically wants to, try and turn him back to the light. But anyway, in Return of the Jedi, he has that epic battle sequence with Darth Vader, which I thought was pretty incredible. And then you basically find out as he defeats Darth Vader and he cuts Darth Vader's hand off, Palpatine, the Emperor, his plan all along was for Luke Skywalker to kill Darth Vader and then take his place as his new apprentice. But he refuses. Luke Skywalker refuses, so then the Emperor starts to electrocute him and basically fry him. And again, this is one of the most historical moments of Star Wars. I think the whole sequence is incredible. Darth Vader, keeps looking at Luke Skywalker and he's like, "Help me, Father, please help me." And the Emperor's like, frying him. And then Darth Vader saves his life. He grabs the Emperor and, throws him over. So one thing that I didn't get is, so what? Basically, by him picking up the Emperor and throwing him over and being fried, that essentially killed Darth Vader? Because then Darth Vader dies. Or did he die because he took his helmet off?
His apparatus?
Yeah, because that's what I didn't totally get. Like, Darth Vader saves Luke heroically, which is awesome, but then basically he dies in his arms. And no, because he says, "I want to look at my son. I want to look at you with my eyes for the first time." So then he makes him take off his helmet, and then that basically kills him.
Essentially keeping him alive.
I guess so. I guess that's what happened. So I never fully understood that, but it was still pretty awesome. And then, Luke goes to Endor. And that's another thing I don't totally get, which again, I guess the directors were just like, hopefully people won't remember, but come on, we're Star Wars nerds. Of course we'll remember. He burns his father in his outfit. You see that at the end of Return of the Jedi. But Kylo Ren has Darth Vader's helmet. And yes, it shows it charred a bit, but he straight up burnt him. Unless one of the Ewoks came and took the helmet off, right after that scene, while he was still on the fire. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I mean, you'd expect that the helmet would stand up better than cloth would. I'm assuming it's made out of a stronger material that it.
Right, but what I mean is it shows him burning his father, to kind of honor him, and but he's going up in flames and he's in the suit. So literally, someone right after that scene cuts must have come and taken the helmet off. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, if he had a reconnaissance mission from
but if he had been left to burn, it would have burnt to pieces. You don't think so?
No, not necessarily. Some things don't burn.
All right, we're spending way too long on the helmet.
If I put a penny in a fire, the penny would still be there. It might be a little bit disfigured.
That's a good point. That's a good point, actually. Anyway, I don't know. I love Return of the Jedi. A lot of critics and a lot of fans kind of consider it of the original trilogy the worst and don't like it. I love it. The Ewoks don't bother me at all. Yeah, sure, it's got little flaws. I love the way it ends, and then of course you discover that Princess Leia is actually, that's where they find out. Yoda tells them
they're siblings.
Yeah, that they're brother and sister. You have that whole weird romantic love triangle, which in retrospect is kind of creepy because Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, kisses Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back. But really she has feelings for Han, and Han has feelings for her, which is kind of creepy when you find out they're brother and sister, but they didn't know that at the time. But in Return of the Jedi, Han Solo's like, "Oh, you love him, don't you?" And then he's like, "Fine, I'll leave." And she's like, "No, he's my brother." And then so they all live happily ever after. Han is with Princess Leia. For a couple of years at least. Well, that's the thing. When I think about now the new ones, it really has kind of shat on the Skywalker legacy, especially. So I can actually understand why fans don't like that. But we'll talk about that. But anyway, I spoke about Return of the Jedi a lot because it's the last one of the original trilogy. And that came out, I think, in 1984 or something. And I absolutely loved it. And then literally it took 15, 16 years to bring Star Wars back in like 2000 when Phantom Menace came out. But so we've done episode 1 through 6, and we've done Rogue One. So
Last Jedi.
So it's we've spoken about the prequels, we've spoken about the original trilogy,
Last Jedi,
and we've
Last
spoken
Jedi.
about Rogue One.
Last Jedi.
Okay, before we talk about that, we have to talk about The Force Awakens.
So close.
So I don't know why you keep saying The Last Jedi.
I don't want to talk about it.
Can we show the listeners that we're a civil, happy, married couple?
I mean, we can't show them. This is an audio podcast.
Okay. All right. So next is episode 7, The Force Awakens. Star Wars, The Force Awakens. So it had been, So The Force Awakens came out in 2015. So that was like, I don't know, 10 years later or something. Because I think Revenge of the Sith came out in like the mid 2000s, like 2006, 7, something like that. It had been like a good 10 years. Disney took over the Star Wars franchise. George Lucas sold it for like $1 gazillion. And people actually weren't that unhappy about that because the prequels got so much flack.
Disney already had rights to a lot of Star Wars things anyway, because they had Star Tours in Disney parks.
Right, exactly. And Kathleen Kennedy took over, basically being responsible for the whole Star Wars franchise. And I love her as a producer. She's done most of, Spielberg's best films and George Lucas's Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park. She was involved in a lot of incredible films, so I like that choice. And then when it was announced that J.J. Abrams was directing it, I think that created so much excitement because he's a great director. He had done Mission Impossible 3. He had done Lost, the TV show, and then he had just rebooted Star Trek, surprisingly very successfully. I loved the first one with, Chris Pine. So the news that he was going to do The Force Awakens, I think, was really exciting. It was shrouded in so much secrecy. Do you remember that? And what we knew was that Mark Hamill was coming back as Luke Skywalker, Han Solo was coming back, Harrison Ford, obviously, Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. Now, here's a fun fact. Harrison Ford was always in the limelight, but Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher hadn't been in the limelight for like 20, 30 years. They really hadn't. They hadn't done much. They hadn't had much of a career.
Carrie Fisher didn't do anything afterwards besides like being kind of side characters.
Right, maybe some TV
until
spots.
the mid-90s maybe.
Yeah.
And then Mark Hamill made a very successful voiceover career.
Right, he was the Joker in a lot of the cartoons.
He was in the limelight, but you'd have to like know the cartoons and things like that he was doing.
They hadn't been around. They hadn't done a lot of features, so it was really great to. I remember there were a lot of stories about how they were told they had to get in shape and she had to lose weight and things like that because they really weren't in the limelight. But anyway, it was so great to see them come back. So The Force Awakens came out, and with so much hype, so much buzz, so much on its shoulders, and I think you and I would both agree it succeeded on every level, right?
Yes.
I think it exceeded expectations, in my opinion. Danny and I saw The Force Awakens 5 times in the theater. We stood in line for hours for the first showing. I remember when we came out of the first viewing and we sat down in this Indian restaurant and we were just like speechless. Do you remember that? We were just like gobsmacked. I loved it so much. Do you want to say something?
Didn't we go and watch it the next day?
Oh, yeah, we did. So in about a 2-week period, we watched it 5 times.
Well, we watched it when it came out. We watched it the next day. And then
watched it with your family.
And then we watched it Christmas Eve with our friend and his daughter.
That's right.
And then we watched it Christmas Day with my family.
With your family.
And then we watched
it with Trevor at the TCL Chinese Theatre.
Then we watched it at the Chinese Theatre, and that was the final time.
Exactly, on the biggest screen in the world. And loved it every single time. Here's the thing about The Force Awakens. Here's why I think they did it right and why it was such a success. It's funny, I'm looking at my screen of my phone, and it's R2-D2, what do you call them?
Our wedding cake toppers.
Yeah, our wedding cake toppers were R2-D2, one with like the top hat and one with the wedding veil. That's how much of a Star Wars nerd we are, and that's my screen photo on my phone. But anyway, The Force Awakens, here's what I think was done so beautifully about it. It brought you the original, the nostalgia of what Star Wars was with Han Solo. Harrison Ford just knocked it out of the park as Han Solo, Chewbacca, the Millennium Falcon, R2-D2, C-3PO, Princess Leia. It did that so beautifully and so perfectly, while also introducing new characters to you could really care about. Daisy Ridley as Rey, she was just fantastic. I remember it took me several viewings to go, wow, I think she's my favorite thing about this. I'm so invested in her. Daisy Ridley, and she had done like nothing. She was a brand new actress, phenomenal as Rey, who's basically the heroine of the new trilogy. And then Adam Driver, who Danny has a huge crush on. But he genuinely was really good as Kylo Ren, who you basically find out is Ben Solo. He is Han Solo and Princess Leia's son.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Force Awakens is basically like 30 years in the future. Luke Skywalker is kind of vanished. He's a myth. You don't know where he is. The Empire's gone, but now there's the First Order.
From the ashes of the Empire, the First Order.
The First Order, yeah. And it says Luke Skywalker, the Last Jedi, has been in exile. Princess Leia is no longer Princess Leia. She's like General Leia Organa. Okay. And she's leading these rebels. And you've got, what's his name? The other guy you like, Domhnall Gleeson, as General Hux, who he was too hammy for me. I mean, he literally was being a Hitler, which I guess is what he was going for. He's like this evil general. And then you've got Kylo Ren, Adam Driver, who I thought was fantastic. I mean, his outfit is so badass. It's
like a samurai type outfit.
Yeah, his sword was so cool.
Lightsaber
sword was so cool, but it looks like a sword. It's got the triple bits, the hilt, whatever you call it. Anyway, and then you've got this sinister figure, Snoke, Supreme Leader, right? Supreme Leader Snoke. So that's the First Order. And then you've got the Resistance there. And then the story is basically Rey is living on, what's the planet? Jakku. And she's been there abandoned on her own. You don't know who her parents are. And she's just like a scavenger or something. And then you've got Oscar Isaac, who you also love, Poe Dameron, who's like this dastardly, dashing, hotshot fighter pilot.
For the Resistance.
Who is, they're trying to find out where Luke Skywalker is. So
they're trying to locate Luke.
Exactly.
That's
so
the whole
he
point.
gets part of a map or something, but then he gets caught. And again, I look at it, it really is similar to A New Hope because he puts the information inside BB-8, which, by the way, this is the introduction of BB-8. And everyone, I remember before that was like, God, is this robot going to be really cheesy? The answer was absolutely
From
not.
the first moment you see him, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, you fall in love with him.
He's the first shot in that movie.
That's right.
Is BB-8
yeah.
rolling
BB-8
to
is
Poe.
amazing. He's so cool. I mean, he's got a lot of comic relief, but he's got the whole scene where he like clicks the lighter out like a thumbs up with Finn. But anyway, so there's a lot of new characters. So you got BB-8, which is Poe Dameron's droid, basically. And Finn is a stormtrooper. So that whole idea of introducing a stormtrooper as one of the main characters, I think was kind of cool. That's John Boyega. He was, again, another unknown actor. He did Attack the Block, which I love. He's a British actor. But he's basically like a defecting stormtrooper. He doesn't want to be part of the herd. And he breaks out with Poe Dameron. He basically saves Poe Dameron, and they both escape. So it's not a Death Star, it's Star Killer Base. It's like a planet, basically, right? In Force Awakens, which again, I understand the similarities.
They weren't even at Star Killer Base.
Well, where were they? There on a ship? Okay.
So here, let me give you the Cliff Notes version of Force Awakens because I've seen it far too many times and I bet I could recite it. So it opens with Poe Dameron is with a friend of the Resistance on Jakku, getting a piece of a map that would hopefully help them lead to Luke Skywalker.
That's right.
Then the First Order comes and there's a fight type thing there. Anyway, they capture Poe and BB-8 leaves with the map, this little droid. So then they get the information using the Force out of Poe that BB-8 has a piece of the map. So then they go back to Jakku. now Rey found BB-8, and she has them. The First Order is going back to Jakku. Poe and Finn, the defected stormtrooper, they go to find BB-8. They end up finding her. She gets the Millennium Falcon. They leave. That's the whole first part of it.
You're doing good. Yeah. So, again, I mean, you're right. See, it really introduced brand new characters, and I think it does it really well. So Rey is essentially the main heroine of the new Star Wars trilogy. At first, she's kind of a no one, but then you kind of discover that she has, like, the Force awakens within her. She has, like, powers she doesn't even understand.
Yes.
Kylo Ren,
She has, like, a
Adam
vision.
Driver, is the main kind of bad guy, the new Darth Vader. But then you find out that actually Darth Vader is his grandson because he's Ben Solo. He's the son of Han Solo and Carrie Fisher. Basically, Finn and Rey escaped Jakku in the Millennium Falcon. Now, for instance, like even just the way it shows their introduction of the Millennium Falcon, I thought was incredible. Like The Force Awakens has so many like cheer out loud moments. Remember, they're like, that piece of junk hasn't flown in years, and then the ship they're trying to get to gets blown up. So she's like, the piece of junk will do. And then the camera pans Millennium Falcon. It's the first time you see it. And you're like, yeah, so it does it so well, introducing the new and the old. But then they're on the Millennium Falcon, and then Han Solo, who's been looking for the Millennium Falcon for so long, he basically brings it into his bigger ship, like I guess with like Force
Tractor beam,
whatever. And then it's got that iconic scene where he enters Millennium Falcon with Chewie, and he's like, Chewie, we're home. But then, so he pairs up with Rey and Finn. They tell him about Luke Skywalker. And then the movie goes from there. So the whole film is really about them discovering Luke, which at the end they do. It's got that iconic scene where The Force Awakens ends, which I absolutely love, where she finally finds him on this remote, distant island. And she hands Luke Skywalker his lightsaber.
She offers it to him.
And he looks all like conflicted. And Mark Hamill doesn't utter a word in The Force Awakens. He's in the last minute of it. But he looks all like Obi-Wan Kenobi-like. It was really badass. It was incredible. And then, of course, I kind of skipped it, but we have to talk about it. The most controversial scene in Force Awakens is Han Solo's death. So do you want to talk about that? Or since you love Kylo Ren so much?
So pretty much they're on Starkiller Base trying to destroy it. And Han and Leia had talked, like, if you see our son, bring him home.
Right.
So Han has his own secret mission, like, I'm going to try to find Ben and bring him home.
He wants to kind of convert him, basically.
And so finds him, and they're speaking to each other, and Kylo Ren saying, like, I don't know.
It's so dramatic. It's on this, like, huge bridge, which has,
It's on the
no railings.
No bridge in Star Wars has railings. I don't know where you get this idea that this is like a weird bridge. They're all the same.
It's all like that. It's all like no safety at all.
So anyway, they're talking on this bridge, and Kylo Ren saying, I don't know what I can do. I think I need your help. And Han Solo says,
I know what I have to do, but I don't think I have the strength to do it.
Yeah,
Will
exactly.
you help me?
And Han Solo says yes, and then
Like an idiot.
and
anything.
Kylo Ren turns on his lightsaber, goes straight through Han Solo, and then he falls off the bridge.
Now here's the thing. Number one, this is one of the best performances of Harrison Ford as Han Solo. Wouldn't you agree? Like, he is so good in The Force Awakens. I really think he's fantastic. Now, for fans of Star Wars, they probably know that Harrison Ford always wanted to kill off Han Solo. He just did. He thought because he was such a scoundrel that he should die heroically in Return of the Jedi. But because I don't know if you know this, but because he was so beloved, George Lucas, the producers, no one wanted to do that. So Harrison Ford always had a problem with that. So when they brought him back for Force Awakens, it was rumored that it was in his contract that he would die. So it was rumored that the character was going to die, but no one knew it. It's done very well. It's very heartbreaking, and it's kind of horrible if you think about it. He gets killed by his own son, but he does kind of help, quote unquote, save the day because they're able to set off the detonators that enable the rebels to destroy the Starkiller Base. I love that scene when Kylo Ren kills him, and then it just has that scene where Han Solo puts his hand on Kylo Ren's cheek and face, and he looks at him like, "You're such a monster, but I love you anyway." And then he topples off the bridge. Oh, so good. I mean, that sequence is incredible. I love it. And then, I mean, Chewbacca goes ape shit. He detonates the bombs. He shoots Kylo Ren. The Starkiller base Poe Dameron, they're able to destroy it. And then there's a big showdown with Finn, Rey, and Kylo Ren. And this is Kylo Ren already kind of incapacitated because he's been shot. So at first he immobilizes Rey, throws her against a tree, and then he has a battle with Finn with the Luke Skywalker's lightsaber.
Yeah, Finn picks up the lightsaber, which is controversial. Like, why the hell did he pick up a lightsaber, and how can he use it?
Right. Well, here's the thing. The more times I've seen that scene again, you can see Kylo Ren's kind of just toying with him, and he's already injured. So it's not like he was actually his match. But
then Finn gets a shot, and he's like, screw this. And then he's like, okay, so now I know, like, you're going down.
Right, so the one shot he does get at Kylo Ren's like, fuck this, I'm taking this guy out. And then he does. He almost kills him. I mean, the scene where he, basically strikes Finn, and then the lightsaber goes into the snow, and then Kylo Ren tries to force grab it, and the lightsaber whizzes past Kylo Ren into Daisy Ridley's hands with John Williams' Star Wars score, to me is one of the biggest fuck yeah moments in cinematic history. So we have watched Force Awakens, I think easily, 15, 20 times now? Easily. Because, I mean, we bought it on Blu-ray. We bought a Blu-ray player because we accidentally bought The Force Awakens on Blu-ray. That's how ridiculous we are. So instead of returning it and getting it on DVD, we were like, screw it. Let's go buy a Blu-ray player.
Well, if we returned it and ordered a DVD, then we couldn't watch it that day.
Right, exactly. And we've seen it so many times. That scene to me, like, I just cheer. And I remember watching in the theater. There were so many like woohoo moments. So like the excitement was so palpable in the theater. I loved it so much. But anyway, so Rey kicks the shit out of Kylo Ren. She uses the Force and she like scars his face. And then conveniently they get divided because the planet is blowing up. And then
Chewie comes in.
Snoke tells General Hux to grab Kylo Ren and bring him to finish the training. Then
but you never see that happen.
Right, and then Chewie comes with the Millennium Falcon and takes Rey and Finn. And Finn's like in a coma at the end. One thing that did bug me, so again, Force Awakens, and again, this goes back to Empire Strikes Back being flawless because I can't find faults with it. Force Awakens does have some flaws, but it brought out the kid in me. It did everything in terms of the nostalgia and the new characters so much. It was so exciting and thrilling, and still is every time I watch it, that I just didn't care about any lore flaws. Like, one thing that does bug me is when Rey lands with Leia, and then Chewie kind of walks off with Finn's body with the medics, and he walks right past Leia. And then Leia and Rey hug. They've never even met. That bugged me because, well, hold on. Han Solo just died. Why doesn't Leia hug Chewie first?
Okay, well, they both have the Force in them.
Yeah.
You realize it, right? So what if it was like a Force mind thing, like Leia can sense it? Because Leia, she's just not trained as a Jedi, like, to do all that stuff, but she still has like the mind connections.
She can always kind of perceive.
Yeah, she probably perceived like she has the Force. She perceived that he died when it happened.
Yeah, I guess so. That's right.
Like,
it
she
shows
knew.
her like sitting down, like, oh my god.
She felt it.
Yeah, Han Solo.
So she
just,
probably
just
felt
died.
the Force in Rey.
Yeah.
At that time.
I guess so. But anyway, I'm just saying that, then it does flash to Chewie on his own being all sad. But I didn't get that. There wasn't, her consoling Chewbacca. That bugged me. Again, it's just a point to nitpick. And what a lot of people who didn't like Force Awakens a lot say is that it's too much like the original films. But I actually think J.J. Abrams was smart to do that. I think they had to do that to reintroduce it. They wanted to bring what everyone already knew and loved while introducing new characters and plot devices you could care about. I think that's why it worked.
If they did a fully new Star Wars movie, like we're going to mention the old guys, but they're not going to be in it. New story, new, it would have failed.
I think so. I agree with you.
It would have failed, and like the prequels failed.
Right. Yeah. So I think it was just a total success. The Force Awakens was my favorite film of 2015. It blew me away. It made me feel like a child again. And we watched it again just a few days ago in preparation for The Last Jedi. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And any flaw I could get over really fast. It didn't bother me. It was so good. So we both loved Force Awakens. It was just a fantastic film, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're there.
Last Jedi, Last Jedi, Last
Which you've
Jedi.
been saying. So episode 8, The Last Jedi. Okay, so when The Force Awakens ended, there was so much speculation and fan theories because
oh my god, it was nuts.
Everyone wanted to know who is Snoke, who is this mysterious
who are Rey's
Snoke,
parents,
and then who are Rey's parents was one of the biggest things. Because again, this is another kind of thing I can understand why people nitpick it. In the original trilogy, I mean, it took 3 movies for Mark Hamill to get half as powerful as Rey got instantly. I mean, she was using her mind powers like in the first film within the first, hour, with the stormtrooper to release her and stuff. And then she's up against Kylo Ren, who's been training, it seems like, most of his life, so it didn't make sense. Here's the thing about The Last Jedi. Okay. So The Last Jedi had so much hype. I mean, the trailers, the ad campaigns look phenomenal. It came out. We saw it. I liked it. I wasn't disappointed because it was entertaining and it did feel like a Star Wars movie to me. Critics loved it. It's like one of the highest rated and reviewed Star Wars films ever. It's at like 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. The film is 2.5 hours long. So that is one factor I think, unfortunately, does work against it a little bit. A lot of people said that there's a 90-minute film, a great 90-minute film in this. I don't agree with that. I think it could have been easily 2 hours.
Nah.
Well, see, I think you liked the film better than me. You loved it, right? Okay, that doesn't mean I didn't like it.
I didn't get up during this movie. And at any movie, if I'm sitting in the theater for more than an hour and a half, I will get up during the movie.
That's true, you do. Yeah, so I mean, we had center seats, IMAX 3D. It was great. I enjoyed it a lot. Look, I'm going to kind of nitpick it and talk about a bunch of stuff. Why don't you kind of tell me?
Tony.
No, it's okay. I like The Last Jedi. Why don't you give me your opinion and thoughts on The Last Jedi first?
I thought it did a good job of moving forward with the story. Like, obviously, you can't keep all the old characters so alive and well going forward. The Force and the light side and the dark side, they evolve, and the movies need to evolve with it.
Right, that's true.
So it was more centered around Kylo Ren and Rey, especially, and them having like a kind of connection throughout the movie. And Luke is now just completely kind of over it. You find out that he trained Kylo Ren to be a Jedi in the first movie.
He's very disenfranchised from the whole Jedi thing,
he's
concept.
like, I came here to die. You know, he wanted to die and be alone by wasn't going to train any more Jedis, just let everything sort itself out. He was done. He checked out. And he maintains that pretty much through most of the movie.
Right.
Which is fine. I mean, that's what happens. Like, he had a huge disappointment, and not only did he disappoint just a person, he disappointed his sister, and his best friend.
Right.
And his nephew. And he just totally like let the family down. So I can see why he wants to kind of get away from everything. But I think they moved on with the characters very well, with the new characters, while kind of phasing out the old a little bit more. Which, of course, like, you can't keep them forever. And unfortunately, right after they finished filming, Carrie Fisher passed away.
Right,
so, like,
in real life, exactly.
Obvious,
which was tragic.
You can't keep them around forever, unfortunately.
Well, look, I agree with you. And again, so you loved it, right? You loved it. And I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot.
I do have one thing I didn't like about the movie, which was Finn kind of goes on this whole little side quest, which is fine.
To the casino, yeah.
Well, not just, like on his own thing. Like, he gets out of his like medical thing. Rey's already gone off to find Luke. So he's just with
that new character, Rose. Kelly Marie Tran is the actress, right? She's like a mechanic
cares?
or something. Yeah. You didn't care for her at all,
No,
did you?
they go off on this little side quest, and then there's like a romance there. It's weird. It wasn't necessary, I think. I don't mind that he had to go and do his little side thing, but trying to inject a romance in it, it's totally not necessary.
Right.
For this movie. I don't think there needs to be, like, Rey doesn't have to have a love interest, and I really hope they don't try to enforce that, because it would kind of ruin it. It's the same thing with Rogue One. They enforced a love interest there. It's like, Jesus Christ, like, can you just not?
Right.
Like, a girl's purpose isn't to meet a boy and like her, which is what they made her, this new character's Rose. You know, it's like, oh, I really like Finn. I'm about to pass out, but I'm going to kiss him first.
Yeah,
Come on.
Cheesy.
You know? But then again, the best part of the movie, there is a scene where Adam Driver, playing Kylo Ren, has his shirt off, and it is just glorious. Just so glorious.
You said that out loud in the theater. That was really funny.
I didn't say that out loud.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was
in the theater. The only voice.
It was more of an ooh. Like an ooh. But you and Yenny did laugh at me about that.
It's like, that was her favorite scene.
Sorry.
Adam Driver topless. Sorry. Okay, let me talk about The Last Jedi a bit. So, look, I did a review, which is on the Tony the Movie Guy Facebook page.
A non-spoiler review, right?
I did a non-spoiler review. So this is going to be full of spoilers. I'm going to talk about that because I want to vent, but this is going to be spoilers. But I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Now,
Boo, Tony.
Force Awakens, I gave like 5 out of 5. Because I think there are actually a number of flaws in The Last Jedi, but I still felt like I was watching a Star Wars movie. Mm-hmm. I was still entertained. And I think why it did work for me is I am won over by the new characters. I'm invested in Rey and Kylo Ren specifically.
Absolutely.
I really care about them and BB-8.
I'm surprised how not invested I am in Finn anymore. Because you were in Force Awakens, and now you're kind of not.
He was kind of my least favorite character in Force Awakens too. I didn't dislike him. It was kind of the comedy element. But you're right. In this film, I really didn't care about him much. Poe Dameron, I thought, actually came more into his own. I can see him being like a rebel leader, basically. Mm-hmm. But to me,
which he probably will be by the next movie.
Yeah, but to me, The Last Jedi, it's all about Rey and Kylo Ren. Mm-hmm. Now, here's what I'll say. So critics, it's 94% Rotten Tomatoes. Critics loved this film. It's really interesting how divided the fans are. Audience attraction and likes is, I think, at like 52%. It's like half either love it or half hate it.
Get over yourself and stop taking Star Wars so seriously. It's entertainment.
I know. And I listeners, I think that's actually an important point because that's why I'm able to enjoy it. But I do want to say I can actually understand, especially why the devoted fans are going crazy over this film and think it's like, because literally half of the people, the audience, basically it's the fanboys. And look, I'm a fanboy too. So I'm not saying that as a derogatory statement, but like half of them are saying this is like the worst film since The Phantom Menace. Or you have Rian Johnson, who's the director. You have destroyed the Star Wars franchise. Look, I understand why they're saying that. Because basically, you're right. What The Last Jedi does, Luke Skywalker says something in the trailers, this is not going to go the way you think it is. And that's basically what happens in The Last Jedi, because all the speculation and fan theories were over who's Rey's parents, who is Snoke, and obviously Luke Skywalker coming back. And in The Last Jedi, basically the twist is that Rey's parents are nobodies. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really explain anything at all, but basically they just sold her and dumped her off on planet Jakku and left and then died. Mm-hmm. That's what Kylo Ren tells her, and he says, you have always known that they were nobodies. So, I mean, that kind of works on one level, because I think the message is that you don't have to come from something special. But I did feel a bit cheated, and I think the fanboys really did.
I think just people built it up too much.
Right. They thought she was, Luke Skywalker's
is she a descendant
daughter,
of
or
Kenobi?
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, exactly. There was so many theories. And then Snoke, I mean, that is the best scene, spoilers, in The Last Jedi.
It is fucking
I mean, that scene is fucking dope. So
he's referring to a scene where...
Do you want to say it?
Where Adam Driver...
Kylo Ren.
I know, I need to use characters' names. Where Kylo Ren brings Rey
to Snoke.
to Snoke. I think she actually goes there herself.
Yeah, she
She
does.
goes there herself to try to. They've
She's
been
trying to
communicating
turn
via the
Kylo
Force.
Ren around, yeah.
Yeah, they've been communicating via the Force for a while.
She thinks there's still light in Kylo Ren.
Yeah, so she goes and she's like, I'm gonna try to save him. I bet I can do it. Like, they have like a moment where their hands touch via the Force or whatever. Anyway, so she goes, and Kylo Ren brings her to Snoke, and turns out he was just like, okay, great, you did it, your final task. Like, you brought her here, good job.
Well, no, Snoke also tells them and reveals that he was the one orchestrating them being connected
it wasn't
through
just
the Force.
It wasn't them like
He
randomly
says that was
like
his plan all along.
Yeah, he connected them via the Force,
Yeah.
so that she would think that there's a light side and be willing to come to him.
Right.
So pretty much he's like, haha, I win. You guys
And
are
then
stupid.
she tells Kylo to complete his training, he needs to kill Rey. Mm-hmm. And then so there's a really intense scene where he's about to strike her down, but Rey's lightsaber is right by Snoke.
Well, he took it from her, like, you know, like Force grabbed it from her.
Right.
And then so it's sitting like on his throne. And he's in this really, the aesthetic of that scene is really
Beautiful.
cool.
And
so it's like
Imperial guards in the red like samurai outfits are so
There's, like,
they look
red-
so sinister and
red
menacing.
samurai looking stormtroopers with like these weird electric forcey
Rods.
blade things, like spears almost. And then it's a big cylindrical room with fabric, bright red fabric. And then he's in this big
Very
throne
aesthetic.
wearing like a gold robe. And you figure out that Snoke's not like this weird mini. Like, I thought he was going to be like kind of a
Well, because
Yoda
he's a big
size.
hologram in Force Awakens, so you don't know what he looks
so
like.
he's
But
like
he's
a
kind of a
like
normal, tall,
alien
kind of
thing.
monster-looking guy.
Yeah, with like a fucked up face.
Well, again, that is a problem in The Last Jedi is there's no reveal about Snoke. But remember, this is just the second chapter in the trilogy, so it might be revealed in the third one. But you don't find out anything about him.
From something.
Well, I know. See, and I know
He
that didn't
probably
bug
was
you.
just like,
but
oh, from the ashes of the Empire, fuck this, I'm gonna do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, look, that bugged a lot of fans. And again, I understand. So what happens, just to finish it, is, and to me, this was the best scene. This scene is amazing. Kylo Ren uses his force powers and
Activates the lightsaber.
And basically cuts Snoke in half and kills
activates
Snoke.
Rey's lightsaber.
And then Rey and Kylo Ren get their lightsabers, and then they have this epic battle taking on all of the Imperial guards, which is awesome. And you think that Kylo Ren is turned good, but then you find out he actually hasn't. He just wants to basically take over the First Order himself to be the supreme leader, and he wants Rey to join him, but she won't join him.
I don't know if that was his intention the entire time.
That's what he says. He says, join me. Join me and we can rule the galaxy together.
Yeah, but does that mean rule it like Snoke ruled it, or change it a little
Look,
bit?
I know you have a huge crush on Adam Driver. There is no redemption for Kylo Ren. I really don't think so. I mean, he is pure evil, and he just wants to rule the galaxy and command everything. As long as everyone is his loyal subjects and servants, I think he'll be fine. But I don't think there's any redemption. You still think you're holding out for hope for Kylo Ren, some type of Darth
I just don't
Vader
think
arc?
he's like as evil as people say.
What are you talking about? He wants to murder and destroy everyone.
He didn't kill Rey.
Okay, you didn't. So I think that's the one person he really does have a connection with. I agree with you on
What
that.
if they get married and then the light and the dark come together and they have cute little Force babies?
Light and dark babies. Okay, you're just getting ridiculous now.
What? I'm just saying they can rule peacefully. They can rule the galaxy peacefully.
Okay. Anyway, Adam Driver as Kylo Ren.
With his shirt off.
Okay. The actor in the performance, I thought he was truly fantastic. And Daisy Ridley as Rey, they both brought their A game in The Last Jedi. To me, the franchise really is all about them representing light and dark. I absolutely love them.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, or have you heard rather, because people complained about Kylo Ren at the beginning.
Yeah.
And in Force Awakens.
I think he got won over. I actually think the more times people watch Force Awakens, he's become more and more popular. Because you're right, a lot of people thought he was kind of whiny and, and he was a teenager. He was young. I think he's fantastic. And I thought he was great in this. Mm-hmm. So I thought those two were great. Here's the thing about The Last Jedi for me. Why I didn't give it as high a review. Why I didn't absolutely love it. Number one, yes, it does make some bold choices. Mm-hmm. So it takes away Snoke completely. So that drove people crazy. Finn kills Captain Phasma. They have a battle and she dies. A lot of people felt that she was just completely wasted because she was wasted in Force Awakens. People loved the look of her, almost like Boba Fett. And then, of course, with Rey, your parents are nobodies. That drove people crazy to no end, especially the fans. Again, the concept that you don't have to come from something and you can just be special because you are special is kind of cool. I think where fanboys really hated the movie, and I mean like loathed the movie the most, was with Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. And I kind of agree. Now, let me be clear about this. Mark Hamill is fantastic as Luke Skywalker in this film. He's great. But here's what I'm talking about. Number one, the comedy in Force Awakens, I thought worked every time. There were comical moments that were just so great. In The Last Jedi, there are so many comical moments. I didn't think they all worked. I thought some of them were real misfires. Right at the beginning of the movie, there's that scene where Poe Dameron's in his, X-Wing in front of the Imperial destroyer. And he's trying to communicate to General Hux. And he's like, I'm standing by. I'm waiting for General Hux.
Oh, he was on hold.
Yeah, I'm on hold. It was so weird to me. And General Hux was trying to be all menacing. He's like delivering a message and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm still on hold. Are you there? Is General Hux? And it goes on for like 30 seconds. You like that. To me, that was cheesy.
That's Poe Dameron.
Okay.
That is him.
I know.
That is his personality. He's snarky. He's
I guess so.
smartass, you know?
I guess so. There were scenes of comedy that worked wonderfully. And there were some that didn't. Like the Porgs. Everyone thought the Porgs were going to kind of drive them crazy, and they actually weren't. They were cute, these cute little creatures.
They weren't overused. I think that
on
was
the island where Luke Skywalker is. They were cute, and there were some funny moments with them. BB-8 was great. So there was comedy that worked. And then, I don't know, there was some, I can't remember off the top of my head all of them, but there was some that to me just really didn't. I felt like there was too much of it. Okay, for instance, I'm jumping all over the place, but, when Force Awakens ends on this climatic cliffhanger, literally ending because Rey passes Luke Skywalker the lightsaber
and
on
you're
this
waiting
cliff.
to see if he's going to
Right.
take it.
And it takes us 2 years and he doesn't even mention a word. He doesn't utter a single word. And when it shows Rey give Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, the lightsaber, he looks at it and he just tosses it over the cliff. I didn't like that. I thought that was very anticlimactic. It was supposed to be comical. It wasn't funny to me.
I don't think it was supposed to be comical. He's cynical. He doesn't want anything to do with the Force. Someone brings him his old lightsaber. He's like, fuck this shit.
Well, if you noticed, there was kind of a muted laugh in the theater. But anyway, I didn't like that. I didn't mind that he was so resistant to the Force and kind of was just there to die. I didn't mind that at all, actually. Again, huge spoilers here. What I didn't like was, so he basically refuses to train Rey. He refuses to go back to join up with Leia. And then, which is another great scene, and it's great nostalgia, Yoda comes back. And there is a lovely little scene with Yoda talking to Luke Skywalker, basically telling him, like, forget the scriptures and the texts. The Jedi is whatever you want it to be, I can't remember the speech he gives, but he's basically saying, who cares about the mythology? Anyone can be special. And then Luke at the end, on the climatic battle when Hux and Kylo Ren are all converging on the remaining survivors of the Resistance, because there's not many of them left at this point. Then Luke comes to save the day. Talk about comedy, another scene that really didn't work for me. I mean, he has a nice, touching kind of reunion with Leia, which I thought was nice. And then he goes out to meet the eight. What do you call them? AT-ATs?
Well, these are
AT-ATs?
called assault walkers.
Okay, the assault walkers and all of the First Order. And then Luke Skywalker goes outside to single-handedly take them on and confront Kylo Ren. It's a bit weird. And Kylo Ren's just batshit crazy at this point. He's like, put all of your guns on that man and fire. He's like, keep firing! And they shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot. And then the dust settles and Luke Skywalker's still there. And then he brushes his shoulder off like a piece of dust. I thought that was so cheesy.
I think it was him trying to push Kylo Ren's buttons.
Yeah.
Like, you can't touch me type of thing.
I thought it was so cheesy.
No, but it accomplished it. People, I'm getting so mad. It accomplished exactly what he wanted to. Kylo Ren got out of the ship, and he bought a fuck ton of time for everybody in the base.
Yeah, so he was stalling them so that the remaining rebel soldiers could, Poe and Princess Leia and everyone could escape. Yes, and he does do that successfully. So Kylo Ren comes down.
And if he didn't do that stupid shoulder brush thing, it wouldn't have pushed Kylo Ren's buttons as much, and he wouldn't have got a ship like, I'm going to do this myself. Fine. Okay, and then he gets out, and then it works.
That's okay. It's okay. This is why we're debating it. Danny's looking really stressed. So Kylo Ren comes out of the ship, and you think they're going to have this big, epic battle, which would have been really awesome, like Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren with their lightsabers. And they kind of do. It starts, but then it stops. And then you basically find out that
it stops because Kylo Ren puts a lightsaber through him and nothing happens.
Right, and he's an astral projection, and he's using his force power to be an astral body, and Luke Skywalker is actually still on the island, which I had already figured out because Luke Skywalker looks younger. He doesn't look all gruff and have a huge long beard.
He's as young as when he was training Kylo Ren.
Exactly, when he was training Kylo Ren and stuff like that. There's a whole backstory there of where Luke Skywalker basically saw too much darkness in Kylo Ren, so for a flicker of a second, he was going to kill him, and that's why Kylo Ren turned against him and then went to the dark side. But anyway, this, I think, is probably the most controversial choice. I loved Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker in this film. I did not think he got the glory. So basically it showed, yes, he helps save the day so they can escape. That's really all he does. And he basically says, I will not be the Last Jedi, because basically Rey will be another Jedi, and I don't know. And then it shows him on the island, coming back to his real form, and then I don't know, like he's exhausted from using his force to be an astral body. Juice. So then he vanishes, and all you see is his cloak, just like Obi-Wan Kenobi. So basically he dies.
And Yoda.
And then Rey and Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia feel it, and they're like, but it was peaceful. I didn't like that. I think Luke Skywalker absolutely should have been in this full trilogy.
What makes you think he's not going to be in the next one?
I don't know, as a Force ghost, probably.
Yeah, what's wrong with Force ghosts?
I don't know, I just didn't get it. I mean, basically, Luke Skywalker is on the island the entire time in The Last Jedi. I'm just telling you
because he went there to die. That's what he wanted to do.
I'm just letting you know what did bug me, and I understand, like, if you look at a lot of the haters, they're like, you basically just ruined the Skywalker legacy. If you think about it, it's kind of true. So basically, the legacy of Skywalker is Ben Solo. He's the only surviving Skywalker who's now the numero uno villain.
Leia didn't die in that.
That's right. So Leia, which I kind of knew, since Carrie Fisher died in real life, I kind of knew that you thought Princess Leia was going to die.
I thought they were going to take the easy way out.
And I was like, I don't think they're going to kill her.
Which I wouldn't have minded. I thought that Kylo Ren was then going to kill his mother and then be fully on the dark side at that point.
Well, also in the trailer, it shows him about to pull the trigger and shoot her, from his spaceship. So I kind of knew that was just a
Since when has the trailer not
baiting
spoiled something?
The viewers. But anyway, that whole thing with Luke Skywalker, again, Mark Hamill was great as him, but that did bug me to no end. It really did. Now, the Snoke thing and the Rey thing, funnily enough, didn't bother me as much as I thought it was, because I love Rey so much, and I guess I can kind of have that she's special just because she is, and I didn't care so much about Snoke. It has to start
somewhere. Where did Anakin come from? Was he just this random? Was he just this random kid in the desert? Like, he didn't have any like special Jedi lineage. He was just Anakin Skywalker in the desert.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, that did bug me. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It's still an entertaining film. It was still cool. Rey and Kylo Ren are phenomenal, and that's why I'll still be in line to see, the next one, Episode 9, when it comes out. Absolutely. But the comedy didn't quite work for me. You're right. Finn's character, John Boyega as Finn, it didn't really serve a big purpose. Rose, this character that he pairs up with, they go off to this romance in it. Yeah, they go off to this casino. Yeah, it just wasn't really necessary. Poe Dameron was kind of cool. Oscar Isaac, I think he came more into his own. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, that scene where You think Princess Leia is being killed, the spaceship gets blown up, and she's in space, and basically it's like a Superman moment where she uses the Force to like fly herself back into the ship. To me, that was so cheesy.
So Kylo Ren blows up the bridge of the ship at the end.
No, he doesn't. He's about to pull the trigger and kill her, but he can't because it's his mother. And then the TIE fighters come in and shoot it.
Okay, so they shoot the bridge, and there's a window, so they destroy the window, and everyone gets sucked out into space. Right? So, and then they say Akbar died too, and just like, that kind of sucks.
A lot of people hated that he just dies off screen. Akbar, who,
funnily enough, he didn't die off screen. They blew it up. He died the rest of the way that everyone else does.
A lot of fans
everyone
really
on the bridge
that.
died, except for the one person who has use of the Force, which is Leia.
Right.
So she
flies through space like Superman.
She flies through space back to the bridge. They let her in, and then she is in like essentially in a medically induced coma because she used up all her Force juice. That's what happens when you use the Force.
So that didn't bug you at all?
No, it didn't bug me.
That really bugged me.
Would it bug you more? Okay, how much? If she blew up in the bridge and floated into space and she died with everyone else, would you prefer that?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, so you prefer that she lived.
I guess so.
So stop complaining.
Maybe if she had telepathically teleported herself back onto the ship. I don't know. I just thought it was done really weird. It was kind of cool to see her use the Force because you always know she does, but she never gets to use it.
She has the Force, but she's more of a political figure than a fighter. She doesn't fight. She doesn't have a blaster except for the original series, and that's to get herself out of a tight situation. But she is a diplomat.
Yeah.
Well,
look, again, I enjoyed the film. It's just I'm still kind of conflicted. What I'm really happy about...
We need to watch it again.
Exactly.
Let's go right now.
Well, no, I'm happy that we already have tickets to go see it. We're seeing at the Disney theater El Capitan on Hollywood, and there's a whole lightsaber show, and we're seeing it on like the day before New Year's Eve or something.
Something like that.
So I'm excited. Like, look, Force Awakens I had to go see immediately. I saw it 5 times. I'm not that as excited about this one to see it that many times. I probably won't see it 5 times in the theater, but I definitely do want to watch it a second time so I can kind of process it. But look, here's what I'll say. I mean, number one, as I said, I thought it was a good film. I did think it was a bit too long. It does drag a bit in the middle. I'm giving you my opinion. I love Rey. I love Kylo Ren. I think they are the shining bright part that will keep this alive. BB-8's still great.
They're supposed to be.
I know. I thought Mark Hamill was fantastic, but it's still settling. I don't know. It kind of makes sense why they did what they did with this character, because it's opening up for millennials. This is a new generation. I get that, but it still bugged me. The thing with Snoke and Rey's parents, I understand why it bugged so many people that have formed so many theories over the last 2 years, but again, it kind of worked. The comedy elements did bug me a bit. And so you've got several storylines. You've got Rey with Luke Skywalker. Mm-hmm. You've got Kylo Ren and Rey. You've got Poe.
And Rose.
Yeah, and then you've got Finn and Rose going off to the casino. A lot of people were bothered by the whole casino thing. That didn't bother me.
The casino scene didn't bother me.
I didn't think it was overuse of CGI. And then, Benicio del Toro's in this film as well.
That's who that was.
Yeah, he's a code breaker, and he's kind of like a backstabber. He's on their side, but then he turns against them. He was pretty good.
He brings up very valuable points, though, of, they steal a ship, and he goes, let's see whose ship this is. Because the casino, it's all rich people. And they're like, all these people have their money because they all deal in weapons.
Yeah. And they sell their weapons and ships to the rebels and the First Order, which was kind of interesting.
Which is what I was going to say. So Benicio del Toro steals a ship, and he's like, at least you're stealing from the bad guys. Right. And he's like, let's see who owned this ship. Yeah. And he goes through, and it's like, blueprints essentially for like TIE fighters and rebel ships and assault walkers. And then it's a blueprint for an X-Wing. And he's like, it doesn't matter to them whose side they're on. They're making money.
That's right. And he double crosses them, and he's like, it's all business. So I thought that was interesting.
I don't think he was going to double cross them, but they did get caught, and he cut a deal.
That's what he said. He said we got caught. Anyway, okay. So look, I'm not trying to upset you.
Too late.
But I enjoyed the film a lot. I need to watch it again. I wasn't as blown away. And I mean, here's the thing. Again, so the director, Rian Johnson, and this is interesting. So
is it Rain or Ryan?
Right. I think it's Rian Johnson. Okay. Anyway, he directed Looper, Brick, which are 2 films I love. He's also the only other director, I don't know if you know this, other than George Lucas, who wrote it. The Last Jedi and directed it. He made bold choices. He did, because he basically said, I'm not just going to give the fans what they want. I don't think it matters who Rey's parents are. And I'm not going to go into Snoke because it doesn't matter. This is about Kylo and this is about Rey. And then he made a really bold decision to just kill off Skywalker on the very next film where it's his first film coming back.
Off the Force.
Him.
You don't.
He's a he.
Okay.
You think Luke Skywalker is going to feature majorly in the last one
maybe
as
not
a Force
majorly,
ghost?
but I think he'll come back as a Force ghost.
Okay.
You don't need if you are that strong of a Jedi, you don't need a body. Yoda,
a physical body.
Yeah, Yoda and can you stop that dog?
Yeah, our dog is next to us making so much noise.
It's like rolling around the
Starbuck, you're
ground.
going to feature in the podcast. Congratulations.
She's looking for attention.
She looks so happy.
So,
Continue.
we learned that from Obi-Wan Kenobi. We learned that from Yoda. We learned that from now Luke, hopefully.
Right.
But it's a spirit, like the Jedi and the Force. It's more of a spiritual thing for them, which is why they were always calling it a religion. And they're essentially like, I would say, like the monks of that religion. So
Right.
they can make themselves appear physically in front of people
I get
without
it.
having a body because their spirit still exists.
I get it. So in The Last Jedi, basically the Skywalker story is over and it opens up a new story, really. It's all
Again,
about
Skywalker's story is not
Rey
over.
and Kylo Ren. Fine. But look, let's move on.
Technically,
So
Kylo Ren is a Skywalker. He's of that lineage.
he is, yeah. He's Solo
He's
and
of the royal
Skywalker.
bloodline.
So Last Jedi ends basically, you've got now Kylo Ren is basically the Supreme Leader.
He
Rey,
is a supreme leader.
Yeah.
Hux calls him supreme leader.
I know. Rey is, basically now the Last Jedi. And
No, I wouldn't consider her a Jedi.
okay, well, she kind of is. And she's with the rebellion.
Well, just like the Empire's name changed to First Order, maybe they're not going to call it a Jedi anymore.
Right.
Maybe she will be the middle ground Jedi.
Yes, it didn't go into the Grey Jedi at all.
Because that's not
there
canon.
was
That
so
came
much
out
speculation that she's going to be a Grey Jedi, and that wasn't part of the story at all. So the director, again, I do think that's bold, and that is something you have to applaud. That he took it in a direction no one expected. Whether you hated it or loved it, he did do something completely different and new, which is kind of cool.
And I have something to say to that effect.
It's better to burn out than to fade away. That's Highlander. Continue.
If he had made it more like past Star Wars,
Right.
they would say he didn't take any risks, he didn't do anything,
Right.
it's just the same. He took risks and it's too different.
You're right.
Fuck off, people. If you want
Okay, babe,
your
calm
Star
down.
Wars movie,
Let's keep the
then
peace.
make it yourself and see if you can do better, because I doubt anybody can.
She looks so emotional. No, look, you are right.
It's
Because
just stupid how
the
people are like, it wasn't the movie that I wanted
Well,
because
you're right.
he wasn't in my head doing exactly what I wanted to do. Fuck you. He made a great movie.
Okay, calm down.
No,
you
I'm too worked
about,
up.
You are right about one thing, because the detractors of The Force Awakens were like, it's too much like A New Hope. It's just
And
a
now
rehash.
it's too different.
And now with The Last Jedi, so many people who hate it are like, it's nothing like Star Wars. So yeah, come on. There's got to be some middle ground. Look, here's the thing. This is a film for entertainment. It entertains. I won't
On a
nitpick to the
crazy
end
level.
of time because that's not entertaining. That's no fun. Just enjoy yourself. And you know what?
People take themselves way too
Yeah,
fucking
they do.
seriously.
Well, the real fans, that's why I'm saying I don't consider ourselves that hardcore third. Like, it's like a religion, because that's just too exhausting. I think it's too exhausting to nitpick and hate something so much. Then just find something else to like.
Yeah, you don't have to watch it.
Yeah, so look,
You guys are going out and watching it, even though you're like, it's too different. I'm
Right.
going to go watch it. And they're probably going to see it several times in theaters.
That's the thing. They're being kind of hypocritical, and they'll line up to see episode 9. So look, The Last Jedi, we've talked about this a lot. I liked it a lot. It was very entertaining, and you've got to hand it to the director for it to be this controversial and for so many people to be talking about it. I mean, he did something, whether it's right or wrong, he did something unique and original.
Kudos to you, Ryan Johnson. I'm a huge fan of your movie.
Danny loves it, and again, that's why I find the reviews, all the debates online on Twitter and Facebook, they are fascinating, because people are just like either black or white. It really is interesting. Look, I love Star Wars. I'll be standing in line for the next one, without a doubt. I really will. So there's no question. Let's not kid ourselves. So episode 9, I think we now have to wait like 2 years. God knows what's going to happen.
It'll be 2 years.
I would love to see more of Luke Skywalker, even as a Force ghost. I guess that would kind of redeem that a bit. And I would like to know a bit more
Even if he
about
died
Rey.
completely, he wanted to. He was
Sure.
done.
But even in an Obi-Wan Kenobi role, like, you know, kind of advising her and stuff would be kind of cool. And then I
mean,
would
the
like
Jedi
to know a
texts
bit
are
more
now
about
destroyed.
Rey.
She's going to
Yeah.
have to figure it out for herself.
Like, how is she so powerful so fast? It's not really explained. I would like some explanation.
Well, let's say that the Force is something that can be measured,
Right.
Like it was for, they kind of mentioned it in episode 1, like, oh, his fucking stupid things are
Metachlorians.
who cares?
Jedi sperm cells.
So, okay, it sounds really weird when you say it like
That's
that.
the point.
But what if whatever that unit is, she has a fuck ton of it, you know? It helps that she believes in it and she's very pure of heart, let's
She's
say.
extremely powerful, yeah. And again, as I said, that's why I think this thrives above everything else. Is the new characters are wonderful. I love Rey to no end. And actually now I really love Kylo Ren.
Do you think Rose is dead?
Oh no, Rose isn't dead. And I here's the thing. I
kinda hoping she
I
was
didn't
dead.
hate her. I just didn't think she was wonderful. I
was
thought she was
annoying.
okay. See, I didn't think so. Rose was kind of cute. So here's something about The Last Jedi. Rose is this Asian little kind of cute mechanic girl who goes off on an adventure with Finn. She's kind of pairs with him most of the movie. Like Finn and Rey don't see each other until the very last scene of the movie. You know, they literally barely talk. But in the beginning of The Last Jedi, it shows Rose's sister as a fighter pilot. And
I forget what they're called exactly. I was looking at the Lego.
she
catalog
blows
this
up
morning.
one of the destroyers.
Like a bomb dropper thing.
Right, but she gets killed. And she's only in it for like 5-10 minutes. She was badass. If she had been the main character, I would have really liked her.
I don't even
but Rose is
remember-
her sister.
Yeah, I don't remember what the sister who died looked like. Are they the same person?
No.
They
not
weren't
at
supposed
all.
to be like
No,
twins
she
or
was
something
like
like
an
that?
Asian actress. You know,
Okay,
young.
like you barely see her, and then you didn't even realize that it was kind of important until later. Like Rose was like, "That's my sister," because
Yeah,
you
look-
see her necklace, and she has another half. It's like a yin and yang necklace.
That's
they
right, yeah.
each have.
Look, Rose was fine, but she was just there to serve as a partner for Finn.
I don't think I like the actress that much
Yeah.
either, but I think that's just my personal opinion.
That's
Like,
just
not that she
mean.
was a bad actress.
We've
or
never
anything.
seen her in anything. She's brand new. And then also the evil quote unquote droid, the counterpart to BB-8, was kind of pointless.
Okay,
What, do you know what it was even called?
it's just it's a BB unit.
No, I think it's a BB-9 or a BB-10 or something.
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, there's several different droids that look exactly like
getting so
R2D2.
offended. What's
because
happening?
people are like nitpicking on the stupidest shit.
That's what makes this podcast entertaining, the debate.
But there are other colors of R2D2, and they're all R2 units.
Okay.
But he's R2D2.
I just didn't think it worked so well.
And
I'm not talking about R2D2.
No, but I'm saying it's just in the same.
Oh yeah, R2D2's barely in The Last Jedi, although
Can I finish?
yeah, but although the reunion with Luke Skywalker and R2D2, anyone who didn't find that moving has no heart. That was very cute. Yeah, sorry,
anyway,
continue.
So they're episode 4 when
New Hope.
Luke acquires
You're right.
R2D2
It shows
and
different
C3PO.
styles.
There are different R2 units. Why can't there be different BB units? Okay,
Right.
he's BB9, so he's like one up from BB8. They're products. They're
Okay.
products. I have an iPhone 8. You have an iPhone 8 now, but let's say you had an iPhone 6. So
I
I'm
understand.
BB9 and you have BB8. What's the fucking difference? Oh my God. This is so
hilarious.
annoying.
This is so this is so entertaining to see how worked up Danny is getting over all the nitpicks. But look, that's why we're talking about it. So what I'm trying to say is I'm just looking at both ends. I'm kind of Switzerland, you see. I can sit on the fence and I can look at both sides. I love Star Wars, and I'll love Star Wars till the end of time. I absolutely will. You know, really. I mean, even the prequels, nothing will kill it for me. But there are definitely things I can love and hate. But as an overall thing, I like it. The Last Jedi was a great film. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Just so you know, that's very good. That's what that is. Now, we've talked about all the films. We're excited for episode 9, which I think that's not coming out till like 2019.
2 years. Oh, and I did look.
Next year is
Han
Solo, a Star Wars story.
Yeah, and then
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
they are starting production on
Obi-Wan
Obi-Wan
Kenobi?
in 2019.
Is that confirmed?
Yes.
Okay, do we know if it's Ewan McGregor yet or not?
Do not know.
Okay, please cast Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. Come on.
I'm
that just
sure
makes
that Kathleen
sense.
Kennedy listens to this podcast.
Oh, I hope so. He would be amazing. Okay, so let's talk about Solo. Obviously, we don't know much about it all. I mean, number one, the production of that film has been so fascinating because Lord and Miller, those directors who did the Jump Street movies, literally got fired.
And the Lego movie. And
they're like 3/4 of a way into production. Like the film was almost done.
And who finished it off?
Ron Howard took over, but that was like an unprecedented move that they got fired. Apparently, they were making.
Don't
they wanted
fuck with
to
Kathleen
make,
Kennedy. She will fire your ass.
Or actually, it was Lawrence Kasdan, who's the original writer, who I think initiated it originally. But so apparently, the problem was they wanted it to be very ad-libbed and very comical. But apparently, the guy playing Han Solo, his role was almost like Ace Ventura. Like it was that cheesy, apparently.
Oh.
That actor, his name is ridiculous. Something like Aidan Oldenwright. He really does look like a young Skywalker. I haven't seen him much at all. So I'm a bit nervous about that. He's playing the young Han Solo. I don't know who's going to be Chewie, but that doesn't really matter.
Do you know who plays young Lando?
Yeah, so Lando Calrissian, that is very smart casting. It's Donald Glover, which my wife loves him.
I swear, all of my
Childish
boyfriends...
Gambino.
All of my boyfriends are now in Star Wars. I'm so
That's
happy.
true.
I
Adam
can see
Driver.
them at any time. Donald Gleason? Oh,
yeah.
Donald Gleason.
Oh, you love Donald Gleason
Donald
too.
Gleason,
yeah.
please come and
Someone
take me
needs to
away.
give that guy a hug, though, as General Hux. I find his performance so over the top. It's
His
ridiculous.
performance in Jedi was better than Force Awakens, I think.
I thought it was just as
He
ludicrous.
probably saw himself and was like, "Ooh, I look a little bit too ridiculous," but he is over the top. He, like, I mean, they have different ways of doing things. Like Kylo Ren, now he's Supreme Leader. They used to be more of equals,
Right.
under the Supreme Leader, and Hux wants to use his stormtroopers. And, like, he's like, no, I train my guys. Like, we have this army. And Kylo Ren's kind of like this renegade, like, no, I have the Force. Fuck you. Ha ha ha. So they were against each other, but now power has shifted.
I love that rant. I'm going to go back to Solo. We're going to wrap this up.
I know,
But,
we're kind of 2 hours in right now.
Yeah. Are we really? Yes. Oh my God. Okay, fine. Well, it's a special bonus episode all about Star Wars. Again, spoiler filled. So make sure you post that.
Yeah,
people,
tell them that there's spoilers at the end.
Yeah, people only listen to this if A, they don't care about spoilers, or B, they've already seen The Last Jedi. But look, on Solo, I mean, I am excited for that. It's directed by Ron Howard. Also, some of the other supporting cast is great. Woody Harrelson's in it. The girl from Game of Thrones, do you remember her name? Emilia Clarke Khaleesi. She's
What?
in it. Emilia Clarke.
What? In Solo?
Yeah, she's in Solo.
Really?
Yeah, I think Helen Bonham Carter's in it. Thandie Newton's in it. Woody
This
Harrelson.
is going to be interesting.
Yeah, it really is. So I'm very curious.
But most importantly, who's in it?
Donald Glover, aka his rap alter ego, Childish Gambino.
Well, Donald Glover is his acting name,
Yeah.
but he does go by Childish Gambino.
Look, I won't lie. I mean, that's perfect casting as Lando Calrissian. He's so smooth
love
and
him so
cool.
much.
Yeah, so I think you'll love it for
Remember
that.
him in Magic Mike?
Yeah, Magic Mike 2, which unfortunately, yes, I have seen
It's
because
actually
you
not
made
Magic
me
Mike
watch
2.
it.
It's Magic Mike XXL. But let's
God.
not get into
Okay,
semantics here.
I want to keep this on the rails. So look, I'm excited for Solo, and then Episode 9, which will close out this trilogy, will come out in 2019. And then, so again, this is what a lot of the fans are nervous about. Apparently, Rian Johnson has been given the reins to write and direct a whole new trilogy after this trilogy ends.
Which I don't think is going to have anything to do with Skywalker
Right.
or
Which
anything
again,
like that.
I understand that. It's a whole new age. We have to move on. And I do get that. So as long as they
And
keep
he
the feel of Star
successfully-
Wars, it will work.
He successfully made a Star Wars movie that wasn't so much like the original trilogy that people complained about it.
Yeah.
And it kind of went off on its own.
Here's
And
one thing
that's
that
what it should be.
Yeah, you're right. Here's
the
one thing that
story
is
and the world and the galaxy evolves, and the movies about that galaxy should
Right.
evolve with it.
You can't be stuck in the past. And here's one thing that is bullshit. Anyone who said this doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie, I don't know what movie they were watching. It felt exactly like a Star Wars movie. It just didn't go the direction they wanted it to go at all. And I guess that's kind of good that it takes some twists and makes some different choices. But anyway, look, we're going to wrap this up, babe. Here's one thing I do want to do.
I want to do something before we're done, too.
Hold
so you
on.
can go
Okay,
first.
good. Well, what I want to do is I just want us to rank them.
Oh, okay.
So here's where I would rank them.
Sure.
Empire Strikes Back for me will always be my favorite Star Wars movie. Again, I could almost say that Return of the Jedi might be quote unquote more enjoyable, but Empire Strikes Back to me is a perfect film. It's flawless. I genuinely cannot find a fault in that movie. I love every part of it. Next would be Star Wars A New Hope. I absolutely love that film. Third would be Return of the Jedi. So you can see that no matter what, and I don't think this will ever change, the original trilogy
are
is
gonna be the
always
top.
going to be the top for me. Then I would actually put The Force Awakens next. That's how much I loved it. I absolutely loved The Force Awakens. Then, and you'll see, look, it's quite high. Then I put The Last Jedi because it still absolutely felt like a Star Wars film. And as I said, I love Rey and Kylo Ren. I love those characters. I really do. And then next I put Revenge of the Sith, which I know is a bit controversial, but out of those prequels, I actually like Revenge of the Sith. I find it quite entertaining, especially the second part. Next is Rogue One. Rogue One has a lot of love, just so you know. A lot of people consider it one of the best Star Wars movies. I don't. It's got the best Darth Vader scene, absolutely. Next is Phantom Menace. And then last is Attack of the Clones, which is the only real stinker for me. So where would you rank them?
So I would probably, I'm pretty much the same, except I would put A New Hope first. I think
Really?
is
That's
my
your favorite one?
Ah,
Okay.
it's flawless.
I mean,
it's flawless
nostalgia, it's kind of perfect. I agree.
And then Empire, and then Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
And then I'd probably, this is tough. I'd probably put Last Jedi above Force Awakens.
Really?
Or if they're
We
tied.
saw The Force Awakens 5 times, and you told me that you weren't dying to go see The Last Jedi again in the theater.
Well, okay, that was like right after that you said that. I've had time to process now. and
Again,
to
The Force
work my
Awakens had all
feelings
that
over.
hype. You know, Star Wars had just come
That's what I
back for
think
the
it
first
is.
time
That's
in
what I
a
think it
decade.
is.
So
Like,
that
it
was
was
a big
like-
factor.
Yeah.
This is the second chapter in something that's back. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry, continue.
So I'd kind of, they're interchangeable. Like Force Awakens, Last Jedi, I'd say that they're kind of tied.
Okay.
I'm with you that the original would go above everything else.
Yeah, it would always be first.
And then I'd probably put Rogue One at the bottom.
Really?
It has a couple of good scenes, and I really like K2SO.
You mean below the prequels?
It's kind of hard to say, but
We
I
don't
don't
have all day here.
I don't think that it added as much. Like, I got that story in the crawl. I didn't need a whole movie
Okay,
about
so
it.
you do the originals, Last Jedi, Force Awakens basically tied, the prequels, and then Rogue One.
Somewhere in there, or the prequels and Rogue One are tied, because I mean they were pretty bad, but
I got
it's
it.
canon.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Well, look,
It's hard to say.
I'm done. This was fun. Thanks for letting me vent to you. That was a lot of fun. Look, I know people are really passionate about the Star Wars films. You really were, and look, I love the franchise. Here's one thing I want to tell the listeners. I'm an avid movie critic. I love movies. I love cinema. They're just films, though. If films can entertain you, and you can kind of escape reality for a little bit, that's all I'm looking for. I think it works a little bit against it when people get too invested, that they nitpick everything. So with Star Wars, look, I respect and I understand, especially the hardcore fans who have really gone into the lore and mythology and the books and everything like that. I get it. I think this is its own creation. They're taking a new direction. The Last Jedi was fun. The whole Star Wars franchise is alive and well. I really feel it will. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's just going to keep growing from there, don't you?
Absolutely. Especially now that Disney owns it, they're just going to keep on pumping money into it.
Yeah.
As long as it'll keep on making money, they'll keep on making Star Wars story movies. They'll keep on making different, maybe not even trilogies, but just different, like, here's
Disney
about this planet, here's this planet.
Has a monopoly on everything. They just bought Fox, so now they own Deadpool. Now they own X-Men. It's insane. Anyway, look. So
They're good at what they do.
Yeah, they are. So look, that was our special bonus Star Wars extravaganza. This is a long episode, but I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Again, spoilers. So look, and you'll.
It doesn't help saying it at the end.
I know, but if you haven't seen The Last Jedi, watch it first and then listen to this.
Again, should have said that at the beginning.
Well, look, I really love the listeners. I love all our fans. You guys are wonderful. I think this podcast is, these episodes are something great to listen to on headphones or if you're at the gym or driving. So, I hope it's, helps your day and helps you smile. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Listen up.
So I really hope you enjoyed that episode of Tony the Movie Guy. And it was a little more heated than usual, but I still hope you had a good time. But I will remind you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Tony the Movie Guy. And you can always email us in at TonyTheMovieGuyPodcast@gmail.com. And you can email us with ideas, comments, suggestions, whatever you'd like. You know, if you want us to have a guest on, let us know. We'll see if we can work it out. I mean, we live in LA, but, you know, everything's possible. Also, I'm going to remind you, especially if you like Star Wars, and especially if you like this episode, to leave a rating and review on our podcast on Apple iTunes. It's extremely helpful, and we really, really appreciate it, especially when we put so much fight into it as we did this episode. I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. Am I right? Am I right? You liked it? You listened to it? Comment on it. You know, review it. It's fun. Anyway, I'm getting a little ridiculous and maybe a little delirious out of my like talking about Star Wars high. So I'll leave you at that. We will see you next week. Next week is also Christmas, so Merry Christmas. You'll probably listen to the next episode after Christmas because we'll put it up on Christmas, the day after. I don't know. I'm crazy. I have a calendar. So just keep a lookout for the next episode. Until then, happy Hanukkah, happy Christmas, Kwanzaa. I don't know what it is, but happy that too. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.